Hey, what's up, everybody? Chat's still not working, apparently, so we're going to have to deal with... Yeah, I don't know. This is a software issue. This is completely out of my hands, it looks like. Yeah, there's nothing. Everything looks right on my end, so the software that updated, so sorry about that. So there won't be chat on screen, but I'm going to leave it unedited so that you guys will be able to follow along after the fact in the real-time chat there. So hi, everybody. Hope you're comfortable. Going to be a long one today, I have a feeling, because I got 5 pages of questions already asked. So we're going to be covering a whole lot of stuff today. So I'm looking forward to that. So here we go. All right, Vince, I'm sorry to say all your questions are going to come at the end. So yeah, see you in a couple hours. Watch it after the fact. Okay. So that said, hi. How's everybody doing this this Thursday afternoon or wherever it is you are? I'm doing all right. Got some tea, got some more tea, got some water. Let's do this. So I'll start with the live questions first, if there are any. Let's see. I appreciate everybody taking the time to hang out today. Yeah, I've been trying to get the chat working, but it's an XSplit issue, so sorry about that. Sorry about that, Rob, but won't have to deal with it for long. Oh, hey, Franny, happy birthday. All right, so there's no questions, so we're just going to go through it. So for those that didn't see, in Slack, I had a thread of where folks could ask questions, and a lot of interesting questions on this. So I broke it up into different categories, and I'm going to do this from a standpoint of this is the stuff that I think everybody's going to be interested in, and then break it down from there. So we start off with game questions, then kind of other general questions, then content questions, then show related as far as current, then next page, show related future. Yeah, that's kind of how I have all of this organized. All right. And I got a couple notes as far as upcoming game streams, reviews, stuff like that. So there we go. Yeah, there we go. So I have 5 pages of questions. So like I said, get comfy. I'm going to bracket them as far as, okay, if you're interested in hearing about game questions, here. And try and front load it with that so that if you're not worried or interested in the show behind the scenes stuff, because I got a ton of questions about that, both current and future. That's going to be later on. So know that. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Some of these I have answers to. Some of them I don't. Do you have anything? And one last caveat here, I didn't get names of people who asked the questions, just obviously all patrons, et cetera, so I apologize. And no, Rob, we're not going to do Vince's verse. I apologize. I'm going to focus on the games and the content, and less about the future stuff is going to come later. It's just the way I have this formatted. I apologize. It's just, I think that works. All right. So, as far as games, do you know anything about Arkwright, the card game, and have you tried it? No, the first time I heard about it and saw it was when I tweeted out a picture 2 Essens ago. So got a copy, saw a copy of the box, or at least a mock-up of a box that said Arkwright, the card game, and people thought it was a level like they didn't believe it when tweeted out the picture, and I saw the designer this year at Essen, said, "Yep, it's in work," and I saw in on BGG that it's also going to it's still in development, so it is coming. Anything more than that, I don't know. So sorry about that. Okay. So how about some heavy war game love in the future? Oh, it's coming. If you guys didn't see, just got a box from GMT. We're going to be covering every single game that's in that box, in either through review, through playthrough, or both. And that included Hitler's Reich, Cataclysm, Space Corps, Colonial Twilight, Talon, Talon 1000 as well. All right. So there's that. Next one. When do we get to see a playthrough of 4X? It is not one of the first Hollenspiel games that is on the list of games that's going to be coming, but it is going to eventually come. When? That I can't answer, but it is planned at some time in the future. Okay. Is there any existing intellectual property about which you would want to see a game published, or a published game? Are there any podcasts that you listen to regularly, board game related or otherwise? And what's the last book that you read that really blew your mind? I haven't been reading a whole lot of books, I got to be honest. Not for quite some time. I'm actually working my way through the Harry Potter books for the first time, because I feel like I should, because it's Harry Potter and cultural phenomenon. I stopped reading Game of Thrones because I'm not convinced that George R.R. Martin's going to finish the series, and so I decided to stop a couple books in and decide if he finishes it, then I'll pick it back up. Read The Passage and the follow-up book to that a while back, but yeah, it's all fiction. I do have a book about the lead up to World War II from the Japanese point of view and everything that I think would be interesting. The name escapes me off the top of my head, but I'll be honest, I'm more likely to listen to podcasts, especially historic podcasts, than I am read books right now, even though I would like to. It's just a time issue. As far as podcasts, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. I can't think of Mike's last name. Revolutions. He's the same guy who did the History of Rome. You know what? I got my phone. I didn't write these down. I apologize. I thought I'd be able to do this from memory, but obviously not. Serial. They've been going through a year in the Cleveland courthouse and real life cases with that. I thought that was a pretty interesting thing. The Hardcore History Addendum, obviously, Crime Town, Criminal, The City, and then some for kind of fiction, kind of old school radio type, but they're modern, called Rabbits. There's one called Limetown, another called The Truth, The Moth, a lot of those. A little bit of Sword and Scale, although I got to be honest, I can only do that in small doses. And No Sleep Podcast. I know the host of that, and he's helped out a little bit with the bumpers on the show and stuff like that as well. Plus, I like scary stories, so there you go. As far as gaming podcasts, I'll be honest, not anything regularly, just not time. And I get enough gaming content that I'm creating and playing games with everybody here, etc. So nothing as far as gaming wise there. As far as an IP which I'd want to see about a published game about, the thing is I feel like IPs for the most part tend to do better with video games, as far as I think they would translate better in theory. I'm not saying it actually works out that way. I know they have a Narcos one that Fell over at Simon has designed. So it's just hard to take a really good IP. The Wire would be amazing, but I don't know if you could turn that into a board game that's compelling. So probably The Wire. It's my all-time favorite show. I think that's where I would go with that. All right. All right. Just seeing in chat if there was anything else there. All right. Randall asked this one. I know. Will we get to see something on Archipelago? Yup. As far as a playthrough, it's on the list here as well. So, yep. And I'll touch on this list here in a little bit. Coin game. Well, Colonial Twilight is going to be the first one that you see, a 2-player. It's going to be me and somebody. It might be Asher. It might be somebody else. I'm not sure. Could be Jess. I don't know. We're going to play that by ear, but that is on the list of, I counted it last night, I want to say, well, you know what? Call it 40-ish games that we're going to be pulling from, but more on that in a bit. Since you played Tricurion, any plans to do a playthrough of Anachrony or Cerebria? Yes, have both games. Yes, want to do playthroughs of them. Not on this immediate list right here, so it's going to be down the road. But yes, would love to. What board games do you think gain the best advantage having been a professional poker player? And sorry if this has been asked and answered before. It's all good. I don't mind doing that. Anything that requires playing other players as much as playing the game. And I'm not talking necessarily games like straight like Diplomacy and stuff like that, whereas that obviously does benefit from it. But I know that you know that I know that you know, and then trying to figure out how many levels deep you want to go with your opponent and how many levels deep in thinking are they. When you're playing to where the game is almost just a framework, because let's face it, a lot of the Euros, excuse me, a lot of the Euros that we play tend to be playing the game. And then some of the more esoteric games out there are more about just kind of giving the players a framework and then here's a sandbox, go play. It's those games that I think benefit the most from being a former professional poker player. And it's not all about negotiation and everything. It's about being able to manipulate your opponents to put them into positions that is most beneficial for you, but also doing so within the context of the game and within the scope of the game, meaning keeping it within the game and not being a douche canoe also. Yeah, I think that's also important. So any of those type games. I mean, you could say something like Root. I mean, and I keep falling back to Cole's games a lot when I think about this stuff, but there are others out there. But I think just playing the other players and sandbox games is where you most benefit from that type of skill, I think. Do you plan on doing a Brass Birmingham review? What game do you want to see get the Roxley treatment? A Birmingham review, I absolutely want to, yes. It is not going to happen in the next couple of months because we have those already planned out and people already prepping for guest host stuff. But do I want to? Absolutely. And what game do I want to see get a Roxley treatment? Kind of like that. That's a good question. I mean, there's been talk. There's the whole, Castles of Burgundy, because let's face it, graphically, it's not the most exciting. And yes, I realize that's not a heavy game, but it's one of my all-time favorites still. Super really nice presentation like that. Castles of Burgundy is the big one that I think comes to mind. And I'm going through, like, a dominant species, I don't want to see ridiculously tricked out just because I think it would be cluttered. I'm just trying to go through like some of my favorite games. And yeah, I think I would go with Castles of Burgundy, that I would really like to see get a really, really nice edition of. Would you consider live streaming any of the heavy space themed games such as High Frontier, Space Core, or Leaving Earth? High Frontier will come down the road when I get a PTZ camera. It is far too large physically too large a board and player area in which to be able to stream with just the normal cameras. They would have to be so zoomed out, and you would lose all context of what it is that you're looking at. Doesn't make sense. So not until that happens for High Frontier. Space Corps, that's on the short list, and that's going to be coming sometime in the first quarter here. And as far as Leaving Earth, got to get a copy first. So would I am very reticent to promise any games that I think that would do well as a stream as a solo play. Leaving Earth, maybe as a 2-player. But as far as reviews go, maybe on Leaving Earth we would see Space Corps for sure and High Frontier for sure as well. So yep, they are those are planned. High Frontier way down the road, Space Corps in the immediate future, and Leaving Earth, we'll see. All right. Does theme matter to you in a game? And what are your thoughts on theme versus mechanisms? Theme doesn't matter in a sense that a game could literally just be void of a theme. And if the mechanisms are good, I can still absolutely enjoy the game, and I have no problem with that. Take, for instance, last night's Pleasant Journey to Neko. At no point, the cute art was nice, but at no point did I feel that the theme matched. It felt like a pasted on theme. Right. So did it help the game? Okay, sure. I'll grant you that. I'll buy that. But was it important to my enjoyment of the game? No. Did it add to it? Yes. So a lack of a theme or a blasé theme is not going to hurt a game as far as I'm concerned. But something that is different. Pleasant Journey to Neko. Looking for penguins. Not a lot of games about that. Yeah, I like that. Or I like dark. I like edgy. I like risky. I like something different. That's only going to enhance my opinion on a game or enhance my interest in a game. But a theme alone will never be a deciding factor on whether or not I like a game. The mechanisms have to carry it. That said, theme versus mechanisms. I kind of just covered that. Mechanisms trump everything, but there's no reason to say that you couldn't have a compelling theme with good mechanisms. I think that's, I think as the hobby matures, I think more and more people are going to start demanding that. And I think that's going to be a benefit to all of us as game players. So yeah, I think that's good. I need to actually mark these as I go. Any insight on 3 anticipated Nuno and Polo games due in 2019? Are we going to get Brazil this year? And both AI and Lufthansa are also interesting to me. What about you? Well, take them one at a time. Any insight on the What's Your Game games coming out in 2019? Nope. Nothing more than what I've said previously. I saw them at Essen. Things have slid, and they come when they come. I literally don't know more than you guys do as far as that goes. Yesterday, 2 days ago, got an invitation to go to LyriaCon again this year. That happens to fall the same week as Gamma, and Gamma is a pretty important trade show, industry-only trade show I went to last year. That was really, really important. It felt like I'm trying to debate whether or not, which is more important, because going to LyriaCon would be look at all the prototypes that we were able to look at there. We had Rekolt, we had Nagananag, we had, oh God, sorry, Tony, I can't think of Snowdonia 2.0, the second one. I can't think of the Alubari. That's it. And there are others. We saw On Mars there, and was able, Concordia Venus. So being able to see all these games and being able to talk about them on the podcast for you guys, I thought was beneficial, and the reception of those seemed to be pretty good. So LyriaCon was really good, as was Gamma. So got to make a decision on that. My point here is, well, What's Your Game is now in Portugal, and everybody's going to be at LyriaCon, so I would be able to talk to them face to face and be able to get a little bit more insight as to that. But as of right now, nope, ain't got a clue any more than y'all do. Yeah, the communication between them and me just isn't there as far as that goes. Are we going to see Brazil this year? In theory, my guess is you're probably not going to see the game this year, but I do think that you'll see a Kickstarter for it this year. It should, last I heard that it was going to be coming in the first half of the year. Any more than that is a guess, and if that's changed, I don't know, okay? Also, real quick, Brian has me paranoid. Sound, you guys, am I coming through okay on your end? Can you guys hear okay? Just making sure. So, Philip, glad to hear that you have 40 games on your list to play review. Would you provide a schedule of what games you'll be playing reviewing over the next quarter? I'll touch on that in a little bit, okay? All right. Okay, so sounds okay? All right, cool. I didn't want to go too far on this without you guys being able to hear it. Also, both AI and Lufthansa are interesting to me. What about you? AI definitely sounds interesting. Lufthansa, I don't know. Interesting art direction I saw on that one. I'll be honest, the first I heard about Lufthansa was the Kickstarter the other day. So I don't know. That one to be determined. AI definitely sounded interesting to me, though, for what it's worth. Okay. What are your thoughts on obscure themes? Oh, how I love me some unique, different, oddball, quirky themes. Big fan. Do you think obscure themes keep certain games from being more popular? Yeah, I think so. And especially when you get to the more controversial themes, I think people, there's a broad generalization, does not apply to everybody, and certainly doesn't apply to the majority of the herd. But I think stuff like This Guilty Land and 4X, and again, now we're going all Hollandspiel, right? Or stuff like Cole's game, some of the more off the beaten path games and themes, I think the more offbeat you go, I think the more limited your audience is going to be, especially when it gets to more dark or controversial or anything like that theme-wise. So do I think that going with a non-standard theme, does that hurt or does that impede the audience as far as keep it from being more popular? Absolutely it does. But that might be okay with the publisher / designer. And do I find certain themes objectionable to you? This might ruffle some feathers, but nope. Zero zilch nada. There is not a theme in a game that I can think of that would just flat out, nope, it's a non-starter. I would not play that game. Sure, you could take this to the umpteenth degree, right? And be like, oh, well, what about playing as the Nazis and you run death camps and you have to put Jews into... Okay, come on, stop. Who's going to, market that game, make that game, publish that? So let's just nip that in the bud here, okay? So let's be realistic on this. So if we're going to take it to that extreme, yeah, I probably, that would be pushing the envelope too far, okay? But realistically, no. There is some really off-putting, I think is a good way, things within games, like take Swedish Parliament 2014, I think, 2014, 2013, 2014. There is one of the political parties has a view on trying to sterilize some of the just horrendous ideas stuff. And would that keep me from playing the game? No. Do I agree with that or find that appealing? Or no, obviously not. But at the same time, if it's trying to mimic real life, I guess theme alone couldn't turn me off, but I think the implementation of that theme and how it's handled could turn me off. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it on that. But yeah, I love obscure or risky or out there themes, and out there not meaning space necessarily. How do you feel your taste in games has shifted, narrowed, broadened since starting the show? Are there games you enjoy now that you would have scoffed at a few years ago, or vice versa? That's interesting, because I've tried to do more thinking about what is it that I'm enjoying more in games. And after playing Newton, this last weekend actually, Jess and I were talking about our plays of Newton. And she brought up a really good point on a game, specifically Newton. All right. And so this is trying to, I'll bring it home here in a little bit as far as the thought. And the point she brought up was it's work, and everything seems very equal. All 5 paths in that game seem equally viable and equally good, so that when you play a card, or when you're thinking about playing a card of your 5 cards to your tableau, you have to try and plan out all 5 if you're going to do, and see where that ends up. And then, oh, wait, no, that won't work, or that's not really good. And now you have to reset and think about a different way to play out all 5 cards. And doing that just feels like work, and it doesn't feel like the payoff is there, and it justifies the amount of work that goes into it. It's just not fun. And I agree with her in that regard regarding that game. So and this kind of, wow, I'm going to try and keep this focused to the question, but it's really hard, because how has my taste in games shifted? I feel like my taste in games hasn't shifted a ton in any direction. I've kind of moved away from more point salad-y games in general. But outside of that, I feel like my taste hasn't changed a ton. I think the heavy cardboard audience tastes have changed a lot since the show has started. We talked about this a couple weeks ago at Game Day, how the show's focus, and we're going to touch on this here in a little bit about people asking about it trending lighter, this and that, and there's some argument that could be made to it to some degree, and whether or not we're getting back to. But I think the heavy cardboard audience in general, the older audience, meaning the folks that were around when the show started up 4.5 years ago, I think turning people onto games that they weren't aware of to begin with started a lot of people down a path to the more niche and more esoteric and more obscure and more niche within a niche games. And I think as time has gone on, and this isn't a end-all be-all, obviously not everybody, but I think there is a strong contingent of folks that have trended down that path, that walk down that path further and further, to where a lot of the stuff, that's all they're interested in nowadays. And I don't know that my tastes have changed in that direction. I still enjoy them, but not to the exclusion of other games. So I feel like it's narrowed somewhat, but not to that degree. And that's not an indictment of anybody. God, no, hardly. Play what you dig, right? But I don't feel like my and the show's focus has matched that same path, I think is a good way to put it. Which I think that's okay, too. But we'll circle back onto the show stuff here in a little bit. But are there any games that I enjoy now that you would have scoffed a few years ago? Yes, but simply on initial judgments before playing the games, if that makes sense. Take a Millennium Blades. I probably would have not played that at the way back or whatnot. Or a Forbidden Stars, just because of what it is, right? The theme, Warhammer 40K, stuff like that. I don't think I would have even really been interested in that, and come to find out, fantastic game, really good game. And I think I have also the one thing where I've contracted a little bit is the interest in Hex and Counter war games specifically. Not war games, but Hex and Counter war games, I think I've trended away from. I don't think those interest me as much anymore. And the giant, hey, let's set this up and keep it on the table for weeks at a time games. I think in theory I would love to do that, but in practicality that's never going to happen. So maybe away from that. But outside of that, no, I don't think it's changed terribly much. And the last question on this on games part is, what are some themes or historical areas that you think have not been tried yet? Whew. I mean, let's face it, the big things have all been hammered, right? World War II, the Civil War, ancient Rome, stuff like that. There is only one game that has gone on the Kosovo conflict. I partook in it. I was a part of that, so I would like to see more on that. I think, and a lot of this, when it comes to historical themes, I tend to think more war game stuff. But so many have been done. I mean, I'm trying to think if there's any obscure topic that I haven't seen done. And I had been thinking about this over the last couple of days, and I really couldn't come up with anything. I'm curious, is there anybody out there where there's some really interesting topics? I mean, you could do stuff about, I mean, what I used to do, right? Aviation and the aviation repairing. But here's the thing. When you talk about those things is, boy, that sounds dry as a bone, right? Or, graphic design or computer programming, so stuff that people do for a living, I think is really interesting. I think there potentially could be some really good culinary themes that could be, or games that could be heavier Euro that could be made. But I mean, they've all been touched on in some degree that I could think of. So I couldn't come up with anything that's just completely way out there, right? Dynasty Warriors, New Board Order says. So yeah, there's that. So yeah. All right. So that's it. Let me go ahead and try and touch on, let's see. I don't think there's any other game-centric questions here. I'm going to touch on everybody's chat, don't worry. So if I haven't skipped anything, just I'm trying to keep it centric to what groupings I have here. Normally I just go straight right through the list. Genghis Khan type campaign game, that'd be good. Dynasty Warriors, right? Where there is Discord, right? About the Falkland Islands and the British War there. Yep. Oh, and Aaron says there are a ton of historical happenings that haven't been touched on. Of course. But I don't know that there's anything that I'm privy to that comes to mind that I could think of. Let's put it that way. But there are some out there, I'm sure. So that pretty much covers all the game questions. All right. And Franny asked about Emira. Emira. E-M-I-R-A. I know nothing about the game. So can't answer. Sorry, Franny. All right. So we're going to move into kind of the other, like these didn't really fit anywhere. So before we get into content and other stuff related stuff, I'm going to touch on these. So give me just a second. All right, so the other. When was your first Essen, and how did you feel when you first visited? My first Essen was 3 Essens ago. So what year is that? That was, let's see, we're in 19, so 18. So 2016 was my first Essen. How did I feel when I first visited? When I got there, I was really upset that I had missed setup day because I didn't, because of a flight getting delayed and missing a flight because of that delay, etc. I missed Wednesday, so I was really bummed about that. The What's Your Game folks, Veronica and Mariano, hosted me at the booth. That was I was overwhelmed at how big it was, and I got to be honest, Essen is my single favorite con of the year outside of HeavyCon. And arguably, I would say it's probably even more so than HeavyCon because HeavyCon, I'm running a convention, right? but it's just seeing everybody, whether it's patrons, whether it's just viewers or listeners to the show, and meeting all these people, as well as a lot of the designers and publishers that make the games that I really enjoy and that you guys really enjoy are there. So seeing all that and seeing just the insanity and the hustle and bustle that Essen is just amazing. It's exhausting and it's a ton of work, but I love it. I absolutely love Essen. So that will never not be in the schedule as long as I'm doing this. As long as I'm in this hobby, that will never not be the case, I think. All right. And nope, Rabbi, I see the chat. You're good. All right. Next one. Just a little bit on a personal note, then show related. How's Amanda doing? Good thing I don't talk for a living. How's Amanda doing? She's doing great. She moved to Florida to move in with her boyfriend, and I couldn't be happier for her. She's doing really good from everything that she's told me. We last texted 3 days ago, I think. And for those that don't know, the divorce is final. That happened back at the beginning of December. But she seems like she's doing really good, and I'm really happy for her. So. Next question. How was the move, unpacking, and catching up on everything been going? Since PAX Unplugged, it's been going really well. I'm still not completely unpacked. As you can see, the paneling's not up and everything here, but it's a good process. The house is getting much more comfortable to actually live in, because let's face it, I'm in the house most of the time because I'm working on the show all the time. So it's more comfortable. There are little things, quirks about the house that I hate, but I think as I get older and I leave this place and move on to a actual house, I think it'll be one of those things you look back on and be like, oh yeah, you remember that, ha ha ha. But yeah, the first floor is frigid. The second floor where the studio is here is comfortable, and the bedroom up on the loft is hot. There's definitely some drafts down on the first floor. That's what happens, I guess, when you live in a 100-year-old house, which the majority of stuff here in the Boston greater area is. And it's maddening. It's not what I'm used to, but I have 2 space heaters that run a lot down on the first floor to try and keep it a constant temperature. But yeah, it's getting to feel homey, I think. Then is everything going as you hoped? I think relatively speaking, I would say yes. Obviously, some things could be better, but yeah, overall, yeah, I'd say it's going well. And what are the show's resolutions for 2019, your most anticipated games for 2019? Mr. President still stays #1 and will stay that way until it either gets scrapped or it comes out. I kid. It's coming. It's just, that's that. On Mars sounds really good. I would like to have a finished version of City of the Big Shoulders. And there's a bunch of others, but yeah. So resolutions for the show and plans for the show, we'll get to that here in a little bit. All right. And while we're kind of on this, Eric asks, can we get a little video tour of the new place at some point? It's nice seeing the behind the scenes stuff. Sure. Once it's done. The closet, which they turned a second bedroom, which is just behind the studio here, into a huge, biggest closet I've ever seen that isn't in like some sort of mansion type thing. They turned it into a giant closet, and I'm using that as game storage and a little bit of a closet. But that's still a work in progress. So once stuff gets finished, I will absolutely happily bring you guys on a tour of that. Kind of doubling back on the game, Stefan asks, in your opinion, is Newton too short with only 6 rounds before final scoring? Absolutely not. Any longer, and that game would be an absolute chore to play. No, I think the 6 rounds feels good. I understand what you're saying, because even when I feel like I did really well in accomplishing, say, the bookcases, I still only get about half of it accomplished. So I don't think it's, there might be a way and might be higher level play than what I'm capable of doing to be able to cover the whole thing, but I'm not seeing how you could do it. And there's always going to be stuff that you want to do that you can't. So it just forces you to make tough decisions. So that's a positive. And making it longer, I think, would overstay its welcome. So no, I don't think so at all, Stefan. All right, so that's it for the other stuff as well. So now moving on to content, and this has nothing really to do with the show as far as behind-the-scenes stuff and long-term plans, short-term plans. This is strictly about content type things. So if you're interested in that, hang out a little bit longer. And I hope you guys like that I'm trying to do it this way because, again, I had 5 pages of questions here, so I wanted to break it up into chunks that were going to be pertinent, or, you know, so people could watch or listen to the parts that they were most interested in, if that makes sense. And I don't know if anybody is giving real-time updates in Slack or anything on this, but hopefully this also helps if anybody wants to do a Cliff Notes version of this. All right. Oh, and John says there were gaming-related questions closer to the top of the chat. I apologize. I must have missed some, so hold on. Oh, hi, John. Okay, there it is. What's your guilty pleasure game? A mass market April Fool's Day stream worthy game that you honestly enjoy even a little bit. I don't know that I play a whole lot of them. Operation's fun. I know that sounds so stupid, but hey, you asked. You know what game I haven't played since I was a kid, but I'm sure doesn't hold up, but I do want to play just to see how bad it is because it was my favorite game as a kid? Payday. I want to try that. I really don't have any others because I just don't play them. No. I'm sorry, John. I know it's horrible, but yeah. Oh, wow. I'm really glad that Alex said this too. He said, another game I liked in online purchase from the publisher after PAX Unplugged, first look play, is Obsession, Pride, Intrigue, and Prejudice in Victorian England. Funny you mentioned that. You know who has 2 thumbs and just recently borrowed a copy to be able to show off on the show? This guy. I have Martin Fowler as a part of this game group. Martin's pretty British. I think that would be amazing to have him and play that game. And from everything that I've heard people playing it at PAX Unplugged, at Base Camp, and other stuff. People have really enjoyed that game. So that's kind of a Pride and Prejudice Victorian England theme. Okay, yeah. So that's going to be coming. That's on the list of games as well, which we'll get to in a little bit. So yeah, that's another one that I'm looking forward to. Being that you place upcoming games on the shelf behind you, should we assume that you're planning on playing Win, Lose, or Banana on the stream? Probably unlikely, John. All right, and then we touched on Newton already. Okay, I think that's it. Yeah, see, this is the only problem with doing this. Moving around. Yeah, I'll go ahead and touch this because I don't want to lose it. Even though you know what? I'll do it this way. Brad asks, if we as patrons would like to see a game on a live stream, I know you take suggestions. Can we come to Boston to play on the stream? I don't want to absolutely guarantee and promise that that's going to happen, especially if I don't know you personally and we haven't played games. Possibly. I mean, like the rabbi came up from down south to run and play Great Western Trail, but I know Philip. So yeah, you know what I mean. We've met a number of times. So I would say I always tend to open up my house, HCHQ, to folks that want to come up and are in the area and want to play games, barring schedule conflicts, obviously. So that, yes, that is a guarantee. But as far as being on a stream, I'm hesitant to promise that, but we will see. That I think is the best that I can do. All right. Eric asking about a order that he made. I'll touch on that in a little bit as well. I think that's it. Okay. And yes, I said payday, Brian. Payday. You know, like at the end of the week or at the end of the month, you always get a paycheck. I don't even remember a whole lot about it, but it was my favorite game growing up. I know it sounds horrible, but yeah, there you go. Streams of Planet Steam. I would have to get a copy of Planet Steam again. I originally had it. That was the impetus for the game group in Denver, was a monthly game of the month. And Planet Steam was the very first game, and we played the hell out of it. And, well, relatively speaking, we played it, I think, 5 times in the span of a month, and everybody was ready to move on from it at that point. So, yeah, that I would love to do a stream of Planet Steam. I've mentioned that before, but I got to get a copy. Not on the immediate list of games in the short term. All right, so I'm going to move on to the content now. So timestamp where this is, guys, if you would, so we can bookmark where things are. All right. So any plans to do more solo streams? I really enjoyed the Hunters. Absolutely. I have mentioned in the past that I have Nemo's War is one that I would like to do. I would love to do the D-Day at Omaha Beach series, or at least start with one of those, as well as some Euros that play solo, is maybe like a Leaving Earth, games like that. But here's my thing, and I'll be honest, for those that live in the Northeast, maybe you guys can give me a little bit of feedback on this, because you experience this a lot more than this being my first winter here. I have kind of wanted to keep those in my back pocket somewhat in case, oh, hey, we were going to stream game X tonight. They can't make it because of the weather. So instead of scrapping a stream altogether, I'm going to stream game Y, i.e. this solo stream, because I'm here and I don't have to travel to get to the studio. I don't want to keep them all in my back pocket, but I do want to keep some of them. I think is a good idea to do, but I would love feedback on that. So that's kind of where I am with solo streams, but absolutely I want to do some more of those. Yes. The thing to keep in mind is there's going to be less interaction during those streams because it's just me, obviously, and the chat, and I'll be focused on the game, less on the chat. You get the idea. All right. All right, so here we go. Is the trend to lighter games now? No. It's not. Give me a moment. I want to go through something real quick with you guys. All right. So let's go back a few weeks. Going back to a month from now, say, right? So a month from now, we had Shipyard, Great Western, or roughly a month. Great Western Trail, Shipyard, Ragusa, Tricarian, Maria, then a lunchtime stream of Age of Civ, Underwater Cities, Airship City, German Railways, Newton, Dulasore Island, which was a lunchtime video, and A Pleasant Journey to Neko. So those are the live streams specifically. And then for the podcast, the last couple of episodes, we've had Tricarian, we had Smartphone Inc., and I apologize for not having written this down. And I'm sure you, oh, and the Deep Cuts episode before that, or yeah, so those 3. And then before that, which granted there was a fair break there. There was the Ask the Elephant. There was Root, the Ask the Elephant episode, Power Grid, and Colonialism were the podcast episodes and reviews. The upcoming reviews that we have are in no particular order: Through the Ages, Feudum, Great Western Trail with the expansion, and Teotihuacan. The lunchtime streams by default are going to tend to be lighter games because they're 30 to 60 minute games, maybe a little bit shorter than that. And there are some heavy games and heavier games that will fit within that window. But so far, all of the lunchtime games have been 2-player games that fit into that window. And so I would say that a lot of those are going to be lighter games. It seems that a lot of folks have really enjoyed the lunchtime streams. So taking the lunchtime streams out of it, I think now would be a good time to go over the list of games that I went through here. So what I did is I essentially did 3 different, I grouped these games from a number of different places. From the Request Geek list, from chat in Slack, and just in general, and me walking through the library and going through the basement playthroughs from back when the basement, I had said that we're going to do a lot of the basement. We're going to restream those now that the quality is better, as well as games that have just arrived, as well as new games. And having done all that, I came up with this list. Yes, I'm going to list all the games. Then I'm going to talk about the top 25 most requested lists and how those overlap a little bit, okay? So we'll start with the new games. Stuff either from Essen or recently released, just got copies of, stuff like that, all right? This is not an all-encompassing, and there are probably some games that I may be forgetting. But on this list, this is kind of the list that me and the local group are going to try and coordinate to be able to do playthroughs as well as reviews of. Now, the local group isn't going to be centric to the reviews, but you get the point, I hope. So, in no particular order, Donning the Purple, Wendake and the expansion with Wendake, Blackout Hong Kong, Obsession, which we just talked about, Keyflow, and Expedition Zeta. Then, moving on to kind of the war game-ish section, we have Hitler's Reich, Cataclysm, Space Corps, Colonial Twilight, Talon 1000, Churchill, Hannibal, DR Congo, Nemo's War, again, war game-ish, kind of, Polis, The Fight for the Hegemony, Washington's War, and then some of the Hollenspiel games, the 2-player Hollenspiel games as well. Then, going back and looking at either the basement streams down there or 2-player versions of those, Atten, Arboretum, Trick of the Rails, Cavum, Docmus, and The Colonists. All of those, a lot of those actually would be lunchtime streams, which kind of makes sense, right? And now kind of either older games or not the hotness, games that I also want to be able to just cover in general. Here, in no particular order, we have Millennium Blades, DVE, and it's in Latin, it's like De Vulgari Eloquent something. DVE is how I know it. Automobile, Age of Steam, more Winsome games, Masters of Venice, Strasbourg, which is kind of a obscure older Feld game that I think has a really cool auction mechanism. Cons, Bus, Shogun, Small City, Clinic, Archipelago, Reef Encounter, Democker, Outpost, the Capitals, Panamax, Imperial, and Lowenhertz. So that's the list, okay? Happy birthday, Franny. Take care, all right? So I think that's a pretty good list. Obviously, you guys are going to judge and decide for yourselves. Looking at the top 25 most requested, out of those that I listed, 12 of those are on the top 25. So that's hitting half of the top 25 most requested games on this list. I think is pretty good. You didn't hear a whole lot by way of 18XX in there. Is I will, as I find folks available, we're going to pick one. It might be 1889. It could be what was the other? Yeah, I think it's 89 is probably 89 or 2038 being the most likely candidates. But yeah, that's kind of where we're going to be pulling from. Okay. So to answer that question, to go back, I lost my spot. I apologize right here. Is the trend to lighter games now? I don't think so. I don't think it's been that way for the last month either. Do you guys? Is the question I have. I'm excited about all these games. I don't think there's a whole lot of light stuff in there. Now, obviously, there may be some sponsor playthroughs that aren't listed on here that are going to be interspersed. When was the last sponsored live stream? Ragusa? That was a month ago? So, and nobody asked about those, but I'll go ahead and chime in about that too as well. The plan is roughly 2 of those a month. Some are going to be less, some are going to be more, but roughly 2 a month. And yeah, we'll touch on the rest here as we go. Let me see if I missed anything during all that. Asgard. I missed that one. New board order. Maybe that gets in there. And again, it's not going to be exclusive to this list. There's going to be maybe some exceptions made here and there, but those games that I listed off, that's kind of the next focus. A lot of those. Like Asgard. I just missed that one. I think that'd be awesome to be able to bring on. Okay, and Jordan says, the extreme weather, pretty unusual in an event. Prudent to keep 1 or 2 in my back pocket, but probably not to keep them all. So, okay, good. And they're forecasted pretty well in advance around here. You'll know a week ahead of time. Okay, so I'll keep probably 2 of them in my back pocket and prep them and then go from there. So, okay, cool. And Vince says, I kind of mentioned this in my content strategy question, which is going to be towards the very end of all this, guys. But I really think that this trending lighter problem question is more of a perception messaging problem than a content problem. I 100% agree with you. And that's something that I'm going to ask for help from you guys with, because I would like to both address it, but also combat it a little bit and prove it. So we'll get to this, okay, guys? And I hate that this is so broken, but again, it was so many questions. I'm sorry, guys. Champions of Midgard. Don't have a copy. Never played it. Can't speak to whether or not it would fit. So I'm sorry, Brian. So I don't know. If I were to ever play it, then I would be able to definitively answer. Okay? Sorry about that. Not to be dismissive of your question, just I don't know is the answer. Flow of History is a lunchtime game. Oh, good call, Bobby. Hey, by the way, hi. Hope you're doing well. Hope the travel's going well. Flow of History. That would be a good lunchtime game. I'll write that down. Because, good call. Because always looking for lunchtime games ideas. And real quick, just as an aside, since kind of touched on that, just like it or don't. And we're going to touch on it more here. You know what? Let's wait on that. I'm sorry, guys. Jordan, I'd love if you guys covered Cerebria. Reviews have been so mixed. Might be interested in seeing it played. I have a copy, Jordan. Here's another question that that didn't get asked on this, but has been alluded to and I've been accused of, I think is a good way to put it, that I would like to clarify, that I have pawned off teaches. I have pawned off exactly one teach in the history of heavy cardboard, and that's John Company. And I pawned that off to the designer of it. Every single other game has been volunteered by somebody. Hey, I can come up and teach this on a stream if you would like. I have never once asked, hey, do you want to come and be the teacher of this game? Do you want to teach this game? Has never happened, with the exception of John Company when I invited Cole ahead of HeavyCon last year. So I have, that is an unfortunate way to look at it. The rabbi asked if he could come up here and teach the Great Western Trail as well as the expansion when he did. So absolutely, if people want to do it, I welcome it. If they're good teachers, Star asked to do Tricerion. And for Mezzo, I had the publisher here and he asked. So Bios Megafauna, Dominic asked if he could do that. Absolutely. So that trend's going to continue because I don't mind if I think it's good to have other people being able to present the game, because I know there are plenty of people out there that don't like my style of teaching everything up front, and it's a 45-minute teach or an hour-long teach, more thorough than it's not, but I try and do it to where it's mostly as a reference for folks. So having different people be able to come on if they wish to be able to teach a game, provided they can do so in a clear manner, then absolutely, I see no problem with it. If you guys do have a problem with it, I'm all ears. I would like that feedback, but I definitely wanted to clarify that, nope, never pawned one off outside of the one to the designer. That's it. So, Jordan, to circle back to that, if you would like to come up and teach it, we could play it, and then we'll see how it goes with you first, that type thing. Because, again, I don't know you from Adam, so to speak, so I would like to, have a little, get to know kind of the question earlier about coming up, can I be on a stream? That I won't promise, but I promise absolutely we can play the game, and you're more than welcome to teach it. Sure. And Vince says, by the way, I want to say that I bring the questions up because I want to help. This is basically what my MA is in. I assume that's your master's degree, Vince? I think that's what it means. Again, big dumb Marine. Didn't go to college, so bear with me. Brian says, I'd love to plan a visit and play City of the Big Shoulders off camera with the group. That'd be a really great weekend. Let's schedule it. I think that'd be a blast, Brian. Eric says, I think a lot of this is also that people's definition of heavy is so subjective. Kind of goes back to what I said about people's own tastes trending in certain directions. And I think that plays a really big part as well. But has the show gotten lighter in some aspects? Of course it has. Trying to reach a broader audience, but the ratio, I feel like we're still maintaining. But again, you guys are the judge. I want your feedback because I hear this getting asked or brought up a lot. And me being in it, it's a little bit harder to kind of step back and look at it. So what I would ask is you guys look at, say, the last month. Again, this is what I'm speaking to is since PAX Unplugged has ended. Prior to that, I'm not really going to speak a whole lot on all of that because honestly, that was in the past. It was an eventful year, but I'm looking forward and I'm excited about going forward. In the last month since PAX Unplugged, I thought was pretty good. But I'm not sure that you guys agree. So I would love your feedback on that. That is the purpose of this ultimately, and to open up that communication both directions, but also so you guys can get a feel for what I'm thinking and where I'm at as far as where I want, where I see the show is and where it's going, which all that's going to be coming. I totally lost my spot. I apologize. A moment. Okay, found it. Let's get rid of that page now. So Gustavo says for lunchtime, maybe something like Zhanguo. I don't know anybody that is going to be able to play Zhanguo in a lunchtime period. You know what I mean? Like, the whole point of that is literally if you're at work with your coworkers. Now, I'm blue collar, so I never had an hour-long lunch in my life. And so an hour-long lunch is very much a white-collar thing. And I know there are a lot of computer programmers and IT folks that are out there that tend to be able to have a little bit more flexibility and, you know, like I said, just white collar jobs in general. Doesn't mean you guys have more time. I'm just saying lunch breaks tend to be a little bit longer there. So we try and keep it to under an hour because that's how long a lunch break would be for those folks. So I don't know. So that's the focus of the lunchtime games. It's not just that we are playing it at lunchtime, but also so that folks can play these at lunchtime. So maybe if I haven't made that clear, maybe that's a clarification that I haven't made in the past that I should have, and if so, I apologize. And Wingspan, I don't know the game, so can't speak to that one. Was PAX Emancipation on my list from earlier? The Call of Sleep is strong. Definitely could have missed it. It was not yet, Vince. You know what? That's a fair one, though. I can throw it on there. And everyone's always going to have their favorites, right? So that's why I'm trying to... If you notice, PAX Emancipation wasn't even in the top 25 here for most thumbed games on the request list. So where do I draw that line, right? Sentient and Unearth. These are good. Good ideas for lunchtime streams again, right? And Arboretum, that was a basement stream that I would like to restream up here now that we have the studio. James, can you be on a stream? Absolutely. You and I know each other. Yes, come on. Do I have the next heavy cardboard around the world drawing schedule? Well, James gets one. And as it was, the second winner has politely declined due to personal life stuff going on as well as work schedule just not feasible that they can take on. So we're going to have a second drawing. And you know what? I don't have it scheduled, but I will do so stat, and I will make a note of that. All right. There we go. Hey, Nick. How's it going? Every time I see Nick now, I just feel guilty. You know why I get Nick. Just, you would think that that would be a priority. And, dude, it's just, I'm going to get there. You don't even have to say it at this point. Have I tried Venus Next or the Colonies expansion for Terra Mystica? I'm sorry, ICTM, I think Terra Mystica. It's Terraforming Mars. Do they add an extra layer to an already great game? I don't think we have yet. I think that's one that we'll probably play and then talk about on a podcast, but we're not going to dedicate maybe a playthrough because we've done 2 or 3 Terraforming Mars streams already, so we might just talk about it as a game we've been playing type thing on the podcast. So haven't talked about that yet, Stefan. Brian, I'll touch on your question here in a little bit, all right? Eric says, Edward, I consider myself an Omni gamer. I'm excited for everything you showcase. My wallet, not so much. And this brings up another point. Who do I cater to? This is a hourly struggle that I have that it's hard to juggle. There are 746 of y'all. There's one of me. How do I cater to 746 people? And that's kind of where this is, right? Aaron says, Town Center. Great lunchtime game. It's good to have a list of lunchtime games. I appreciate it. New Board Order says, personally, I like the direction. My game niche is midweight Euros, but my brother tends towards the heavy side, so we play in the mid to heavy. Oh. Gustavo says, Wingspan for lunchtime and Zangguo for the incoming list of games. Gotcha. My bad. Chisholm says, I'm with Eric. All types of games. Variety is good. Kickstarter's brutal. Have we aired a play of Neanderthal? We have not, Brian. Interesting. Wicked Loki says, your style of teach has made me able to teach games to my group much more easier. That's awesome to hear. I'll be honest. I've heard that the teaching notes have helped folks, but not that my style has helped. So honestly, Loki, I would like to know more. And it's not, ooh, look at me. I'm curious how it has helped you. I legitimately would love to hear about that because I don't know. It's the first I've ever heard of that in the however many years I've been doing all this now. Robert says, I personally think your current show trend is pretty close to spot on. If the focus was 100% super heavy, I'd likely lose interest fairly quickly. Yep, and Rob, this is 100%. I actually went back and watched some of this. He says, I personally don't have a problem with others teaching. I have an issue with you talking and interrupting them while they do. Up to this point, it's been a purposefully done thing that I have now heard from like 3 different people that they don't like that I do this, viewers. And let me explain my point of view and then explain, hey, it's stopping. When I teach, there have been people that fall asleep. People fall asleep Dorado teaching. People fall asleep just when you hear one voice for a long time, it can get a little monotonous and a little, whether at school, at college, whatever, right? It just, one voice lulls you to sleep. So what I try and do when other people teach is interject a second voice to be able to break up that monotony. I'm not saying it's a good idea. I'm not saying I've done it well. I'm saying that's the point to it. Also, there have been times to where I don't think when somebody else has been teaching that they conveyed a point thoroughly, and it might have been a little too brief or glossed over. And so I will kind of expand on something that I think, from my point of view, here in the room, I think that's a good thing. However, going back and watching some of these, what you guys see during the teaches is you see a top down of the board and you don't see us. You will hear disembodied voices and you see a hand moving around here and there and whatever. It doesn't come across as well to you guys as it does here in the room. And that's something I have been made aware of. And that point's been driven home very, very clearly by some folks. And that was after Star's teach of Tricarian. So I'm not going to do it anymore. Just not. I've encouraged folks when I'm teaching to also chime in. But for the most part, nobody does. And I'm not hearing any complaints from you guys about that. So maybe it's just it's a me thing thinking that. So, okay, I hear you. Not going to happen anymore. It may happen out of habit here or there, but I am very conscious about that. So there's that. Okay. So I appreciate the feedback. Loki says you have to cater to yourself first. If you have fun, that comes across the channel. That is something that I'm trying to learn for sure. And Brian says, cater to your love of games. That's why you started this. I feel like I'm trying to keep this. I give up. So I recently had a phone call with one of the folks from the small council, Waymost, and he brought up something, and I thought I would bring it up to you guys. And he said that something has changed on the live streams. The feel of them has changed. And I said, what do you mean? And this is a phone call, so this is a real-time conversation. And he said, I don't know. It just feels different. It's like before you were just getting together with your friends and playing games, and we were just watching, and we were just kind of like a fly in a room type thing. And now it feels like more that you're presenting games than it is you're just there with your friends playing a game. And I said, yeah, I totally can see that, because it's always good to have an outside perspective, right? People can give you insight that you can't see because you're in it. And I stopped and I was like, yeah, I could totally see that. And I kind of worked my way, talking my way through it over the course of, like, I don't know, however long. And I told him, I was like, I think that's fair. I wonder how much of that is that I've been doing this for longer, so now I'm both more comfortable, but also trying to be more professional in the presentation of things. As the technical side gets more professional, I try to be more professional. And so maybe that has changed the feel a little bit. But then it occurred to me what arguably is the biggest change: the people and my relationship with those people. And that's, I lived in Denver for 6 years or so, 5 years before the show existed. And the people that were on the live streams were my friends. And my friends were the people that I gamed with. And I've since moved to Boston. And everybody that's on these streams just about right now, because of space issue on opening up a game day at my house, which is very small, or my apartment, whatever. So I've opened it up to patrons pretty much exclusively so far. So the folks that are here are patrons, but I didn't know them when I moved here. And so they started out as acquaintances, and they're becoming friends, but we're not super tight yet. And so that relationship that I have with them is totally different than the relationship I had with my friends back in Denver. So yeah, that's coming through on the streams, and that kind of makes sense. But as I get to know these people more and more, you're going to see that come through. Heck, if you look at Star and his evolution on the streams, I think it's been pretty cool to watch how his personalities kind of come out. And all of us are kind of vibing off of one another and kind of ribbing on one another a little bit more, which is a familiarity thing, right? So that's coming through. So I think that's fair that the feel has changed, but it's not something that is entirely in my control. But it also shows an opportunity to be able to watch how different personalities blossom and grow in this. Mine as well, with the interaction with everybody. So I think that's important to note, and to have that kind of context and that perspective as well, right? And Eric says, honestly, the majority of us are here because we identify with your gaming interests. Play what you like. We'll probably like it too. I'm trying on that. Yep. And Eric says, the order and structures of your teaches have rubbed off on my style, and I teach a lot now since I'm the one who watches the playthrough and teach. That makes sense. Okay, cool. Hopefully your groups are receptive to it, and it's a good way to teach. It's not for everybody. Take Paul Grogan, right? Gaming Rules, and Cole, and some other folks. They try and get you into a game as soon as possible, and then give you more rules as things go on. Personally, that's not for me. I hate that style of it. It's not for me. So I teach the way that I like to be taught, but that doesn't mean that mine is the right way. It's just the way I do it. So hopefully that it's impacting in a positive way. And the response, I mean, obviously the teaches and playthroughs are seeing more and more people watch them. So I take it that's a good sign. So people are enjoying that, I think. And yep, Rob, I hear you. Said, if that's the case, make a note, and when the teacher asks for questions, ask a question. And yep, totally going to start doing that when other people teach. Yep. That's awesome. Loki says, recently picked up the estates in Australia. Recently, I would say be careful with Australia just because that was a prototype. So the teach on that, just be careful. The rule book may have changed, but no need to even look through the rule book. Was able to teach the game simply based upon the stream. Easy peasy. You're the second person that's mentioned that. Greg mentioned it in the episode when we did Tricurian about the teacher pipeline. That's awesome. Dude, that's a huge compliment. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. And no, Eric says, I always felt your interruptions were scripted. Not at all. It's just the people that also come and teach usually have made notes and written up their own kind of script, if you will, or teaching notes. But no, not scripted at all on my end. From now, my teaches are when I teach, except for the lunchtime ones, which tend to be simpler games. And ooh boy, was that a rough one with Dulosaur Island. I apologize to everybody. That was not smooth. I'm sorry for that. Dragon, I think is how you say that, says nobody's going to get 100% out of the show. I mostly play 2-player with my wife, which means no 3-player games for us, or 3+ player games for us. But thanks to your show, we also now play Brass instead of only Carcassonne. That's awesome. And yeah, not every game that we stream or that we review is going to be for every person in the herd. I realize that. I'm just trying to offer a variety that stays within the medium and heavy train games and war games. Train games and war games require more effort for myself, but more importantly, require more effort for the other people that are going to be on the streams and or reviewing the game. They have to play the game enough before to be able to. I'm not going to go a 4-person coin game where somebody has not played the game before on a stream, or with 3 people that have played the game once. That would be a hella long stream, number one. And number two, it just wouldn't show well. So it requires bigger effort on their part. And it requires a dedication to being able to schedule out playthroughs of the plays off camera of those games, and coordinating everybody's schedule in which to do so, and then sticking to that schedule. That's why these games are so much harder and more infrequent than the mid and the heavier Euros. It's just nature of the beast. Is that going to change? I'm going to try and make a concerted effort. You just heard that list, well, an hour ago, whatever it was. So the effort's going to be put there, but they're never going to be as frequent as the other games. Just if you're hoping or planning or wanting that, it's never going to happen. Understand that now. It's just the logistics and realistic. Will they happen? Yes. Will they happen at the frequency that some folks are adamant it should? No, I can't. Unless you want me to solo multiplayer games, and I think that niche is covered by Rado. Or John at John Gets Games. I have no interest in doing that. So just be aware that that's not the direction I'm going to go. And I don't want to, and I don't think you guys would want that. So that said, just understand that I am beholden to other people's schedules as well. So they will come. They will come as often as reasonably can be expected. And I hope that's enough for folks. Robert says, being a 20-year U.S. Air Force vet, I can hear the remnants of military structure in your teaching style. Clarity, conciseness, and an emphasis on the important points are all the focus. Keep it up. Full disclosure, when I was in the Marine Corps, halfway through I spent 9 years in the Marine Corps. Halfway through, I actually went to military instructor school on how to teach. Not to be a drill instructor, not basic, not boot camp, but to be an instructor for my job. And I graduated top of my class in that. And so that structure, that's just the way my brain works, there's a reason that the reviews are structured the way they are. People say I'm artistic. Not at all. There's a reason that everything is very structured. It's just the way I'm very analytical. I'm very, that's why I cook and bake. I think there's an appeal there because it can be very structured. But yeah, no artistic bone in my body, but that's where that comes from. So yeah, that's just me. That's the way I am. That's not going to change. New Board Order says, I think some of that, talking about the change in feel on the live streams, has to do with us being used to new faces coming on the stream that we aren't as familiar with. Also, the camera angle of the new studio is different. It's on the other side of the room, so I understand that. And Tony says, live stream games for me are just as much about the people the playing them as the games themselves, and you're effectively starting over again almost from scratch, getting a play group together. So it's taking time, not just on my end and their end, but on y'all's end as well, which to be expected. That's reasonable, but understand that it's a process that we're all going to go through together, and there's nothing we can do to rush that. Nick says, I'm teaching colonies tonight. It's been 5 years since I last played, but I'm reminded of what an awesome balance and mechanic the game has. Colonies. You gave a link. I appreciate that you gave a link. I haven't played that, Nick. Have fun tonight. All right? Colonies. Make a note. Nick says it's great. All right. Tony says, and so far I'm really enjoying meeting and getting to know the new people. So that's cool, right? Stefan, what's the heaviest game that I've ever played? High Frontier? I immediately go to war games as well and trying to think. I think High Frontier or one of the coin games is probably the heaviest I've played so far. I think. Yeah. Loki says, I miss the old group that you have, but I'm enjoying J-Rex and all the new faces. Me too. I miss my friends. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I do. I mean, I miss them as people more than I miss them on the show, but sure, I miss them on the show as well. That's not to diminish the folks that are here now. I'm enjoying this, but sure, I miss my friends as well, right? Hinkle and Stein. I want to be able to get the right camera angle to be able to do Hinkle and Stein, but I really want to. And this just in, it might be coming back. Keep that in here. Might be. Might be. Do not go pestering anybody about that. Might be. Portos, my communication has sucked up through PAX Unplugged. I am in catch-up mode as far as emails, Twitter DMs, Facebook messages, stuff like that. Here's the God's honest truth, everybody. My goal is to be completely caught up by the end of February. with everything. All the shipping things, yeah, here, I'll give you an update on that. All the shipping stuff has been sent except for, I think, 3 orders, which are back ordered, which they've been contacted, and the polo shirts. The polo shirts have been ordered, and I'm awaiting those to arrive. And I'm awaiting on a restock of new shirts for any of the outstanding orders. Other than that, the orders are caught up. I'm about to start tackling patron rewards, starting over from scratch on that. So I'm going to ask some patience and understanding if I ask you redundant questions, and figure out a good way to tackle that. So I got to get through that. And I'm trying to get through a mountain of emails and other communications. So if I have been unresponsive, I apologize. I'm trying to catch up. My goal is to handle everything that comes in, but also work my way backwards as well, and try and be caught up by the end of February across the board 100%. That's my goal. And Joshua asks, any way to timestamp roundtable discussions at the end of, yes, timestamps. I'll talk about that in a little bit. All of those have been helped or are in the process of getting completely updated and current, and we have a plan going forward with those as well. But I'll touch on that more in a little bit. Have not talked about HeavyCon yet. What is up with the fruit behind me? You'll find out. Eat healthy. I like that, Dragon. Go with that. All right, let me get back to the list now, guys, okay? Because we're only a page in of 5, and it's been an hour and 45 minutes. Or, wait, no, I'm sorry, an hour and 35 minutes because I started 10 minutes late. Okay, you've spoken a little in another thread, this is on Slack, about planning the games that will be stream reviewed over the next while, the next quarter, next year, etc. Can you tell us some more about how this is going to work and how you can influence it? Sure. So every month, including this month, it's coming this week. There was a comment on Twitter, I think, about, oh, there's nothing going on this weekend content-wise. Yep. 3 live streams, and now I'm taking this weekend to catch up on some of the stuff that I'm talking about here. One of which is doing the survey for patrons to vote. Not survey, sorry, voting for January playthrough, which I've decided how I'm going to do this is I'm going to give that month, and the first week of the following month is going to be that playthrough that you guys voted on, if that makes sense. The first or second week, meaning January's playthrough, voted on playthrough, will happen the first or second week in February, and do that, so on and so forth. I'm also considering Vince's idea of having a second vote being open to the public. Obviously, it's going to be a curated list that I'm not going to be like, okay, pick a game, and we'll just, because I don't know if I own it. I'm not going to do campaigns for North Africa, stuff like that. So it's going to be a curated list in which I provide the options, and then you guys vote on it, as well as possibly the public as well. So that would be 2 of the live streams. Also, I go through Slack, and I even if I don't comment on everything, I read most everything that's going on in Slack, and just kind of try and take the temperature of social media in general and what people are talking about. So that influences it somewhat. So that's kind of the main way. So discussions on Slack, as well as the voting. That's kind of, as well as focusing. Know that this list is going to be the focus for the most part for live streams and reviews outside of the stuff that I'd already talked about. And as well as, you know, the occasional sponsor playthrough, et cetera, et cetera. So there you go. All right. So hopefully that answers that question, I hope. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about the lunchtime streams. As someone who enjoys the lunchtime later streams, I'm still going to ask this for those that I know are thinking it. Does spending time on these streams, pre-stream plays, rules learning, rules notes for the actual stream itself, take away too much of your time from the core focus of the show and other show-related responsibilities? Would your very limited time be better utilized in other ways? I bet there are very few patrons who are interested in Duelosaur Island, especially if it's taking away time from other things. Before I tackle that, there were a couple more comments that I also, or comments that here. Said, I enjoy the lunchtime streams as well. I just know that some people don't, especially among the people who have left over the last few months. I also think there's a huge difference between something like Mayfly that I never would have seen anywhere else and something like Duelosaur Island. The other thing to consider is that patrons and patron interests are only one audience. There's a lot to be said for streaming something that has broader appeal if that's a conscious decision. Patrons are an important audience, but we're certainly not the only ones that Edward has to consider. Next note. I enjoy the lunchtime stuff because it falls in a time where I can watch live. I'm unable to watch a stream in the evening live, and I do fall more into the medium to medium heavy game space and really enjoy the variety. I can see where the war game crowd may be on the shorter end of the stick due to lack of streams in that space. Overall, Edward needs to do what's best for himself and his brand. So, tackle the first thing. Does it take away time? Absolutely, it takes away time for all the reasons you just mentioned, right? Have to play it beforehand. Have to learn the game, have to prep for the teach. Even if I'm not making a teaching script, I still got to prep for it. And then the actual stream itself. So absolutely, it takes time away. Does it take away too much time? This is where I have to make judgment calls, right? That I think the lunchtime streams have been, there's been enough, a large amount of positive feedback from these lunchtime streams that I think I want those to continue. They're going to, I hear about Duelosaur Island. I'll be honest, I thought folks were genuinely going to be interested in that. Whoops. Yeah, the feedback that I got on that one, there was a very loud outcry from a handful of folks that really didn't want that. I hear you. I think there's still going to be some of those, but I think there's also, I want to try and focus on stuff that is the more obscure or the more, not sure I would have seen that somewhere else, with a little bit of the more mainstream as far as the hobby games that fit within that realm, sprinkled in throughout. So if that makes sense, that's kind of, the lunchtime streams are going to kind of mimic the bigger picture for what I want with the channel. And I say channel, but the brand, if you will, the Heavy Cardboard name in general, to where the majority of it's going to be focused in the niche that we are, but also there's going to be some more mainstream stuff sprinkled in here and there. But again, it's going to be sprinkled in. It's not going to be the majority. And I'm posing a question to the 50 of y'all that are watching live right now. And for those that choose to watch later, post comments about this. Answer me on this. I want your feedback. Here's your chance. Has the last month not been what it is? That has it not been that focus? I genuinely feel like it has. So if there's a disconnect between my perception and yours, looking back on all the streams and looking back at the podcast, I really feel like it has. But you tell me. So the lunchtime streams aren't going away. Are they going to be every week? No. They're going to be here and there. I mean, Atten, Arboretum, Trick of the Rails, Docmas, apparently, and I'm going to look into some of these others that folks have chimed in on, as well as some of the more obscure stuff like City Kyoto. There's others, like maybe Railroad Inc., kind of a play-along type thing. Stuff like that for lunchtimes, I think. Okay. Neil, what cons is Heavy Cardboard going to in 2019? Haven't decided yet. Can't answer that. I'm sorry. So this is really interesting. I'm reading the chat here as you guys write it. So the last month has largely been solid. Answer: the last month has been very good overall. Then no, it absolutely has not. There were a couple, literally, but the rest, nope. I've enjoyed the last month. It made me become a patron because even though there aren't games I care for, there are ones that I really enjoyed and purchased. Last month and even before that has been largely solid. I agree that it's more of a perception thing than a reality thing. Marco says, I'll add my voice to Rob's. Lunchtime being accounted as a full stream, followed by a medium game plus a complete podcast episode that is an edited Ask the Elephant. Nope, not focused. I'm asking about the last month, Marco. I hear you about the Ask the Elephant as an episode. Yep, that has been made clear. That was a misstep on my part. But going back to since Unplugged. Okay. And I'll tackle Vince's question as well. Why would you not make them every week? Talking about the lunchtimes, at least it's consistent, even if people don't like them. Better to have everyone knows Monday at noon is lunchtime with Heavy Cardboard or whatever. It's 4 streams. They are not entirely dependent on me. This is the thing that I really need to stress to everybody, and God, I hope this comes across the way it's intended. Outside of solo streams, or if I were to do something as a review solo or what I talked about previously on caffeine, everything that is produced on Heavy Cardboard is dependent on me and other people. Plain and simple. These live streams don't happen without other people. Lunchtime doesn't happen without Jess and or other people. The reviews don't happen without other people. I need to be able to... The reason there isn't, okay, Thursdays at 7 p.m. is going to be this stream, and then Saturday at this time it's going to be this, it's going to be a stream every week, is real life happens. And I can't guarantee that people that commit, things happen, things come up, and that's why I can't definitively say in 2 weeks we're going to do this. I'm dependent on other people in this. And I know you guys know that, but I don't know if it's considered. And if it is, am I wrong in... It is a huge time investment for everybody that does something that is related to Heavy Cardboard, whether it's the folks being on streams, folks being guest hosts on reviews. That's my job. I'm not complaining at all about it. Zero, zilch, nada. I mean, I put in a lot of hours every week. Some weeks it's light and it's like 60 hours. Other weeks it's more, a lot more. But you got to understand, burnout is real on all of this for other folks. And they're doing this because they want to do it. So can I force somebody to do it? No. So that's why it's really hard to lock down a set schedule on that. That's fine for me to have a set schedule, 100%. But what if I plan on these things and, hey, something came up, or nope, I just can't, or you know what? Hey, I just don't want to do it, meaning the other people, not me. What do I do in that case? Sorry, guys, we can't stream tonight because of X, Y, and Z. And Adam asks about what about pre-recorded content as regular content? If we're doing that, then that cuts into time that we can stream, because there's only so many hours in the week to be able to do that, right? So if we're going to do that, we still have to be able to record the playthroughs, even if we were to do 2 in a day, which is asking a lot as well of other people. So it's possibly lack of live, but that's going to eat into time that it takes to produce the live content. So there would have to be a buffer built in there. And so I don't know. Have I considered that? Not really, because that is not what the show has been about up to this point. So I don't know. Getting back to the comments about the content for this last month, I very much enjoyed the last month. I would like more heavy games like 18XX, but I know that a lot of work involved, so I can be patient and wait for maybe once a month super heavy stream. Jordan, I enjoyed the last month a great deal. I don't always watch lunchtime streams, but I don't have a problem with you allocating them some time. What about re-reviewing? I'll get to that, Philip, later. Tony says, I'm 100% fine with the recent variety. Not everything's going to be my cup of tea. Some will be more vocal about the things they don't like. Some won't. Some won't be happy until you're 50% 18XX, and I would argue 50% war games. That's true. Neil, have you weighed leaving the Patreon model, or does the other option mean working for someone else? The other option other than patrons is Kickstarter. Have I seriously weighed it? No. Have I considered it? Yes. I love the community that's built around the show. I absolutely love everything that this represents. But it's a lot of work, and it's daily maintenance, and it's a lot of upkeep and a lot of constantly trying to juggle the wants of 746 people every single day of my life. Kickstarter, you have to juggle that for 30 days. Do I want to do that? Nope. So no, I haven't seriously considered it. Tony, you need a team of dedicated staff, mate. I'm so going to get in trouble for this. I can't really afford to pay people. And asking for folks to volunteer for things is frowned upon by it's frowned upon. Rock in a hard place. Getting back to the lunchtime streams. Honestly, the majority of people seem to love them. Some don't. They're staying. I like them. I think they're fun. But I agree with games like maybe not Duelosaur Island. It was suggested by patrons, honestly. They messaged me, and a few people said, hey, how about this? I was like, yeah, we could do that. So I think I'm going to treat the lunchtime streams, the lunchtime with heavy cardboard streams, the same as I'm teaching the bigger picture, with core and some sprinkled in, some lighter, or some mainstream sprinkled in. All right? So, all right, moving on. New games are awesome, but doing quick look-backs. Philip, there you go. Quick look-backs at some games would be awesome. Many people don't even own the older games that got reviewed. That's a fair point. Here's the only... With having guest reviews, or guest hosts, sorry, with me on the reviews is they might not always be able to partake in that, so it might just be my voice in those look backs on some of those, which if that's okay, then that's absolutely something I could do. I would like to do that because let's face it, Tony kind of burned out on the show. Amanda kind of burned out on the show. Both of them, the show is tyrannical in its schedule, and I've mentioned this before. So that's where I could look back on these, but I don't know that the guest host could necessarily join with that. But if you guys are cool, then absolutely, that's something that I could do as a part of the podcast. Okay. Rob, why are you trying to juggle 746 peoples once? Don't do that. Just stick with the premise of the show. The premise is medium and heavy and train games and war games. And that's the thing, Rob. I really thought I've been doing a really good job since the end of PAX Unplugged. I really did. I felt really good about it. I did. So, I'm curious to know in what direction you plan to take the show. Since the move, it's my feeling that we see more and more playthroughs of lighter, shorter games and less reviews on games with more meat on them. I feel like Tricarian fit that. I thought Smartphone Inc. Maybe it's not as deep as I would like it. That's a fair point, but I feel like that was timely. I think Teotihuacan, I think Feudum, I think Through the Ages, and I think Great Western Trail, all the upcoming reviews, I feel like fit. I feel like those are good. So, direction I plan to take the show. Up until 48 hours ago, I thought that I was doing right. I thought the focus of the show was medium and heavy train games and war games. And yes, I've taken to saying train games because I get called out the fact that there aren't enough 18XX, so I'm just going to change it to train games. Honestly, there's going to be more 18XX coming, but yeah. So Block war games, Neil, aren't happening until I get a PTZ camera. This ceiling, here, hold on. Let me show you guys something. I'm almost touching the ceiling. It's a 7-foot ceiling in here, and I didn't take that into consideration when we came up with a solution back in Denver, which I had 9-foot ceilings in. So the PTZ camera's got to happen. And I'll be honest, that's a little ways away right now. So, yeah, I want to. I really do. I'm going to mount the plan. Going to mount a PTZ camera back there and hopefully be able to zoom in on the blocks from my perspective, obviously over my shoulder. Either that or have it up here type thing, and as well as another one up above. So that's the plan on those. So, yeah. Somebody brought up top 6 lists. Thinking of doing more of these on YouTube or the podcast. Might be cool to collate Patron and Herd top 6s each time too. I love that idea. And I'll be honest, hasn't even crossed my mind for the last 6 weeks or so, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever, since PAX Unplugged. But the top 6s I would love to bring back, and I would love to have an idea of like the Patron or the Herd kind of top 6. So it'd be mine and y'all's. I think it's a fantastic idea. And I still have a list of like 50 ideas that folks had come up with. So maybe I could do that once a month and do that as a supplemental. Should be a relatively easy podcast to record. So I think that would be cool. Good idea. Doing more video other than the live streams and stuff, and even these top 6 lists. This is something else that I need everyone to be aware of. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just being honest with you guys. That everything that adds takes away from something else. So the question is, where is the priority? For me, the priority is a consistent fortnightly podcast and 2 to 3 live streams a week. That is my focus. Bar none, number one, come hell or high water, outside of technical snafus or whatnot, that is 100% the focus I have in catching up on the rest of the stuff that I'm behind on. Anything above and beyond that takes away from those things. So for me to be able to answer that, my question for you guys is, what would you like me to take away from to be able to do these things? There are only so many hours in a given day. And again, it's not making excuses, guys. I hope it's not. It's just facts. And the other thing that I don't like talking about, but is also a fact, there used to be 2 people that did this. My job didn't double, but it's about 150% more of the stuff that I'm doing than I was doing that's taking more time as well. There's only one host now. So again, it comes down to a matter of time. So that's it content-wise. So moving on to the current show-related stuff. Can we get more teaching guides updated on a regular basis? Somebody else asked, what's the status of future installments of Edward's teaching notes? Personally, I've benefited greatly from their use on several games and would love to see more games included in the mix. Have you ever considered outsourcing to the herd the creation of notes based on your past playthroughs to help keep the list growing? These are currently handled by one of the members of the small council, and life happens. Again, this is volunteer stuff, right? So it hasn't happened with the regularity that we've all wanted, but that's hopefully going to change. So some people have reached out to offer assistance with this, so I am gladly going to take them up on it if that's possible. So yeah, the teaching notes, I'm hoping will be able to be regularly updated going forward, starting in the next couple of weeks, I'm hoping. So I hope that answers that, and I know somebody asked about that earlier as well. Do the podcast episodes still get posted to Stitcher? The new ones haven't shown up in my feed. I'll ask Waymost about that. I'll be honest, when it comes to this stuff, the technical side of these things, Waymost has been amazing in that, and I will have to refer to him. I will ask him that. So stay tuned. Can you update on the patron reward backlog if it's not already addressed? I'm terribly behind on that. Some of the rewards are outdated on Patreon as well as the annual because they're the same. It's been backburnered a little bit because I'm trying to catch up on the shipping stuff first and foremost. Now that that's just about caught up, I'm going to, along with keeping all the content moving forward and consistent, I'm going to be trying to complete and update and get caught up on the Patreon rewards. I'm probably going to have to start from scratch on that. I don't have a plan in place yet on how to go about tackling all the Patreon rewards because I know a bunch of you guys have gotten them. I don't have any notes on that, and so I'm having to pick this up and kind of start fresh. I apologize, and so we'll see. So it's going to be addressed, but I know I've asked for patience on that. I'm going to have to ask for continued patience. It is coming. It is a priority. I promise. It's just the content on the show is the bigger priority. And as I fit time in around that, then the second biggest priority is the Patreon rewards, because God knows I want this off my plate far more than you guys want your stuff that you absolutely are entitled to. So I want to get it to you. I promise. I really do. It's coming. Yeah. All right. From the last weekly look ahead, seems like the number of patrons has declined. If so, any thoughts to why? I think it's a mix of a few things. End of the month, there's always a drop at the end of the month. So if I have streams that are like on the 1st or 2nd, that number can drop as much as 20 or 30 because credit card issues, people haven't updated their credit card info. Some people have just decided to never update their credit card, so they're just going to permanently drop off. But I don't know. Some come back when they update their credit card info. Some is they just quit right before the end of the month, so they don't get charged for another month. Also, and this hasn't really officially happened yet, but around February timeframe, a lot of the annual patrons haven't renewed, so that number is going to drop considerably because I haven't updated that. But yeah, so that's kind of plus the end of the year was the big deal. And the holidays, I imagine, money's tighter for folks. So this is very much discretionary income spending that discretionary spending that folks are using their money for, which obviously I appreciate, but I'm still beholden to what's going on in their lives. So as that, and I imagine that the perception of the show, whether it's real or perceived, has impacted that as well to some degree. And yeah, so all I can do is put out the content that I feel is quality and feel that is stuff that you guys want, and let the chips fall where they may in regards to acquiring new patrons, maintaining the level of number of patrons, and which kind of goes in line with not losing, right? So that's all I can do. That's what I have control in. I don't have control of what other people choose to patron or to do with their money or not, as it were, right? So I think all that plays a part. I was enjoying the weekly email updates a few months ago, but lately they're much more infrequent. Sometimes I listen too much to feedback. Sound familiar all of a sudden? And so I got a lot of people chiming in that, wow, enough with the emails. I'm getting too many, which that was pissing people off. So I kind of backed off of them. But I'll be honest, they're kind of cathartic for me to write, and I enjoy them. I want them to come back. Plus, I kind of enjoy putting a video to them, a different song each time. Sometimes meaningful, sometimes just this is what I'm listening to. And so I'll be honest, I want them to come back. And I've heard from enough people, yourself is the person who wrote that as well as others, that they like those updates. So I'm going to get back to them because I think I like writing them too. So there you go. All right. Can we get some kind of schedule for the patron voted playthroughs? And where does the voting on the patron streams? Yeah, that's coming back. So there's going to be either later today or tomorrow. You guys, everybody who is on Patreon will get a link, and all of the annuals will get a separate or the same link, but you get the annuals get an email. You guys are going to get that for voting for a handful of those games that are on this list, and that's going to be the January vote. And that will be, as I mentioned earlier, in the first week of February or the second week in February. That said, my goal is the first week of every week, or the first week of every month, to get a new poll out to you guys. I now have it on my calendar and it shoots a little reminder to me, hey, do that. So, okay. I, for one, enjoy and appreciate the lunchtime playthroughs, so any plans for a new survey so you can accurately gauge the type of content patrons are interested in? That's kind of what I'm doing this for, because I'm hoping, even though there's 50 of you guys watching it, I'm hoping the other 700 in some form or fashion, whether that's somebody does a Cliff Notes or people watch it afterwards, however it gets there's discussion in Slack. I imagine there's going to be. I'm hoping to be able to gauge it from that without having to do a formal survey, because yeah, I don't want to go that route right now. So I'm hoping that the feedback that I get from this is enough for right now. So that's the immediate plan for that. I've noticed a few rules mistakes in some of the streams. Do you have any thoughts to go back and officially make note of the error and what would have been the correct thing to do? Usually I can find a discussion in the comments, but it'd be nice to see in the description or in the Klingon subtitles like a few other channels do. I would love that. I'm hoping that the mistakes in the streams for the majority of these are pre me doing a teaching script of. I'm sure there are still a couple that get through here and there, but I'm hoping those are few and far between. That said, I would love to do that. That's just time that I'm taking away from somewhere else. So if that is a priority and I saw all the thumbs and all the this and all the yeses and all the woohoos to that comment, I absolutely can do that. I would be willing to do that. Absolutely. It's just time that I have to take away from something else, from podcast, live stream, something, Patreon rewards. Where would you have me take it from? I am on board 100%. So if people want to chime in and tell me if that's a big enough priority, I can do that. Yes. Are you concerned about Man vs. Meeple starting to do live playthroughs? In fact, they also just streamed Dulosaur Island. I actually saw part of that after the fact. And Vince actually asked one of these. Recently, Man vs. Meeple and Dice Tower getting into playthroughs. Does Heavy Cardboard have any plans to get into non-playthrough video content? What are my thoughts on it? Or am I concerned? Not even a tiny bit. I welcome them into the format. Absolutely. Go for it. Come on. So no, why would I be concerned? Because am I concerned they're going to do it better, or concerned that they're going to steal view? Or I'm just not concerned about it. No, I'm not. I think people should make the content they want to make. I think that's a good thing. So, and it provides more for you guys. So, and let's face it, Dice Tower and Man vs. Meeple, we're going to have some crossover, but not a lot. We're going to have more crossover with the lunchtime streams and the occasional main stream, if you will, non-lunchtime stream with both of those. But no, not concerned. Any non-playthrough video content? Not at this time. Again, it goes back to, where do I pull that time from? What do I, for everything I add, I must subtract. So that's not a priority. No. Hey, Rainer. Are you afraid of burning out sometimes? We only see the weekly content, but I assume the preparation is very big. Do you get help from someone when preparing? Am I afraid of burning out sometimes? Yep. I am. Tony burnout, Amanda burnout. It happens. I love what I'm doing, though. I really enjoy this. And sometimes are easier than others, obviously, but that's why I'm trying to not do too much. It's funny. When I did, after the Patron drive that I did last year, I felt the need to do more at the early part of 2018. More. And that's kind of things kind of went a little sideways on me there, because I felt obligated. Oh, now I'm doing this full time, and now I'm more beholden to doing more content. And we did that survey about that time, and we got 400 and some odd responses to that. And the overwhelming majority of the response was, no, don't do more. Focus more on quality and less about more. I'm supporting the show, meaning the patrons, supporting the show because I want the show to maintain, and so you don't burn out. So don't do more. Yet, a lot of the questions here have to do with more or different? So that's hard, right? It's hard to not hear that. It's hard to not listen to this and try. But then I risk burning myself out and just walking away. Not threat. It's not going to happen. I don't mean it that way. I'm just saying that burnout happens. There's a reason that podcasts come and go. There's a reason that video channels come and go or just disappear. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. I am off camera putting in a lot more work than I am on camera, and including behind the mic on the podcast. But do I have help from someone behind the scenes preparing? Let me do it this way. I wanted to give a really big thank you to all the members come and gone of the small council. Rob in chat there. Waymost, Matt, right? Dan, Bev, Matt, Ash, Jared, and Brad. They were invaluable. They were very good friends. Some of them still are very good friends, and have helped get the show to where it is now. And I am very grateful for all of them. But as is natural, they're all volunteers, right? They all have busy lives. They all have their taste in games change. Their gaming time changes. Their interests change. So volunteers come and go, whether it's volunteering at an animal shelter or volunteering for something like this or doing anything because they want to be a part of it. So I am thankful. I don't know a big enough word to say what I am to everybody that has volunteered to do so. So thank you for all of them that have come and now gone. They help get the show to where it is, but the volunteers are going to come and go, and it's a huge time investment on their part as well because of the behind the scenes stuff that they're all helped out with. And so there are people that are asking me, whether it's at conventions or emails or messages or whatever, hey, can I pick your brain about this? Absolutely. I try and pay it forward. Or patrons that want to volunteer to help, which is what the small council all were. They were all patrons that wanted to help. And so it gives folks a chance to learn the sausage making process, the behind the scenes stuff. So I'm always open to that, always open to mentoring. I know there are people, patrons that have started their own podcast from helping out and wanting to try their hand at this stuff. So I'm always willing to do that. So I'm grateful to all that. All right. Also, a big thank you to all the mods. So Rob, who is he is the head moderator. He also welcomes everybody into Slack, which is awesome. And I appreciate that he does that. Also Waymost and Jess and Tony and Franny. So thank you to you guys. I appreciate the moderation, and we haven't had to do a whole lot in Slack. In fact, I would argue that there's like gentle reminders. Outside of that, I don't know that anyone's ever had to moderate anything in Slack thus far. Knock on wood. That's a credit to all of you guys that are in Slack. So thank you to that, as well as moderating in chat during the live streams. That's awesome, and we have room for more now. So so this kind of people helping me prepare. They're helping me with other stuff so that I can prepare, but nobody's helping me with preparation. No. A big thank you now, and this kind of goes back to talking about timestamps, to Adam and Chris, who are helping with timestamps and getting the videos onto BGG. Adam has been amazing in his timestamping and how detailed all that is. It's incredible to see. So he is the official Time Sphinx now. And helping out. So those two are helping out behind the scenes to get everything timestamped. And no, it's not current. It's in process right now. And this just started this week. So preemptive thank you to both of them. And Cormac and everybody else that has helped with timestamps. Awesome. Thank you so much for the help on that. Also, James is doing all the graphics work. So for the weekly look ahead, as well as the the hold screens for all that. A big thank you to him for doing that. So yeah, invaluable. Really, really appreciate all the help. And I think that pretty much covers it. But as far as help preparing for the show, nope, that's just me. So there's that. All right, before I get to the last page and a half, let me catch up on chat. We knew this was going to be forever today, right? Thanks, Philip. Says, I respect your voice. That's why I'm here. I appreciate that. That's where I'm at in chat. I'm a ways behind here, so bear with me. Alex says, I'm new here, so take this with a grain of salt. I don't care if you just joined today. Feedback's feedback, so don't ever think that, Alex. I appreciate it. Says, I love that you're reaching out to the herd and seriously considering their feedback, but at the end of the day, it's your show and you have to love it. Fair point. And Vince, I think this is regarding the lunchtime, says, if you enjoy them and you're having fun, then you should do it. Good to have things that you like and keep yourself balanced. Neil said, I enjoy the lunchtime streams. I don't mind the rare paid playthrough. Like I said, I'm going to try and limit those to roughly 2 a month. John says, I want to say I think you're doing a fantastic job. Thanks for all your effort on all fronts. I support you doing the channel that you want to make it. Dragon says, Edward, you always say play what you dig. So in your case, do what you dig. If you're happy with what you're doing, it'll lead to the best result overall. You're doing great. Don't burn out. I appreciate it. Neil also says, I'm also a patron of spreading the word that heavy games are fun. I don't need to like or dictate every game. And Scott says, I think it's been a good month, and while I prefer heavier, it's nice to be exposed to variety. My wife loves games like Azul. I got Arboretum after seeing it here. We both enjoy it. Stay the course. Hey, Vince, you and I need to talk. He says, I think it's important when someone complains about lighter games to ask them, what games would they like to see? They rarely have a suggestion for a particular game. And asking them is a subtle way to say, what would you have me do? But putting it back on them. Yep. I'm learning all this. Big dumb Marine, right? I'm still learning all this process. So Brian says, I'm new to all this, and there's so much to keep up with these days. Is there a posted agenda or programming format that is followed month to month? Forgive this if it's being done. There isn't, and it's been floated, and this is absolutely going to happen. I just need to make it happen, is get a calendar on the website and put that up to try and like kind of color code it like this is the possible. I'm scared of doing this because then, oh, what happened to this? Oh, why didn't you do this? I'm just setting myself up for that. I know I am, but people keep asking, oh, I would like to see what else. And everything is written in sand, guys, until ask James. There are times he gets the weekly look ahead. He finds out what games are being streamed at noon. 2 hours. He has to make the graphics sometimes. Sometimes it's like Wednesday or Thursday. On occasion, it's that. Sometimes it's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. That morning, hey, this is what we're going to do. Because that's what I found out people schedule to be able to stream games. So that's why it's hard. But the plan is to get a calendar up on the website and to direct everything back to the website for that calendar. Because that will cover Twitter, Facebook, the Guild, Instagram, the whole 9 yards, and Slack, right? And Philip says, by the way, I like the episode with Greg. You had good chemistry together. I appreciate it. Do you think about updating the patron levels and what comes with it? Every single day of my life, Brad. It's not an exaggeration. Every single day. But where, again, it's trying to prioritize everything. And I'm also really scared to cutting stuff out of the patron rewards and say, okay, look, you 746 are all grandfathered into X, Y, and Z, but going forward, nope, it's going to be this, this, and this. I'm scared to do that for the same reason that I forget who asked about it. It might have been Dimitri, it might have been somebody else, but the Exodus at the beginning of the year. What happens if I cut down on the rewards? I'm scared of that, right? Argument could be made, well, you're not getting them anyways because I'm so far behind on that. Yep, fair point. But I'm trying to catch up on it. So that's the goal. So when does that get updated? Where do I prioritize it? That's prioritized after other stuff. And I am totally open. If you guys have ideas for patron rewards that don't require more time investments, I am completely open to that. So please email me your suggestions. I would love to hear them. Eric says, for teaching notes, post the write-up for the stream to some wiki-ish, allow modification updates by patrons. That completely cuts the legs out from the $10 patron reward level, doesn't it? So what should I do? What should be the driving factor for the $10 patron reward level then, if I do that? I'm not arguing against it, but kind of like what Vince suggested, what should take its place? Because right now, the only publicly available live teach is the Teo teach, and that's posted on BGG. So should I open that to everybody and just completely negate the $10 patron reward? And if so, what do I replace it with? Totally open for suggestions. And Justin, regarding your comment, I listed all the games that are coming, so I hope that hits the right notes with folks. Alex, regarding burnout, do you take vacations? I can't imagine conventions count. Nope, conventions sure as hell don't count because I am working my ass off at conventions. Not really. I'll be honest. Right now, I feel guilty. I mentioned this to a couple of the guys when we played game night the other night here, that I'd like to go up to Springfield and go play some cards and just disconnect from things for a while, for a day. And I'd feel guilty doing it because I feel like I still need to catch up things that are falling behind on the show. And so I don't want to do that. But at the same time, I'm human. I need a break, right? But so vacations, no, vacations don't happen. They haven't happened. They will happen at some point in theory. No, I don't, Alex. And Loki says, we all want more. We should understand the reality of time and your needs as a person as well. And it's hard for me. Tone and presentation matter, right? So I can't just be like, all right, folks, this is it. Take it or leave it. Suck it if not. Probably not the right way to present things. So I try and take everybody's feedback, but at some point it becomes overwhelming, the amount of feedback. And psychology says that you as humans, we tend to harbor on the negatives than the positives. So it's hard for every negative, it drowns out 10 positives, right? So it's hard to not focus on that side of things. So I try. And I have Jess and some other folks, Martin. Martin actually has been a invaluable resource, as is Kleiker still. He and I still talk fairly regularly. But Martin, being as he is, he deals with this in his own respect, his own realm for Martin Fowler. And so being able to have somebody who is in a different but also similar vein, but much bigger, it helps having that sounding board. So that helps. So it's just a matter of being able to take it in and not take it personal, and being able to take it as a positive and shape things in a good direction that I also agree with, because you guys are right. It is my show. It's your show as well, but it's my show. And doing it in a way that allows me to sustain it is important, because if you guys go away, there's no show. If I go away, there's no show. So it's kind of that symbiotic relationship, right? And so finding that level of, okay, thank you for your feedback, but we're going to go in this direction. I appreciate it, but no thank you. Or thank you, we'll take it under advisement. And if you get enough of that, then maybe go in that direction. So I'm trying to do that, and trying not to get overwhelmed with it. But sometimes some days are harder than others, if that makes sense. So everybody has their own wants, and trying to be true to what I feel the show should be and is, and then hearing that, nope, that's not at all the case. Your reality is different than what is reality. And I'm terrified to take a break right now. Consistency is the most important thing, and that's what I'm trying to do. So I am going to make the show that I want to make. I want your input. I welcome it. The community is as big of a part of the show as I am, and I think that's vital. The community isn't just the patrons, it's my game group here. And I also have to be realistic with them. So I'm trying. I'm doing the best I can, and I hope that's good enough for folks, I think is a good way to put it. And I will continue to take feedback. But yeah, so now we're getting to the heart of things here in a little bit after I finish up chat. Justin says he thinks the perception of the complaining is because requests are falling on deaf ears. All I can do is talk about the list that's coming, but all I can do is try and show you guys. And I'll be honest, man. Ever since PAX Unplugged, I really thought we were doing a good job. Really did. How about a Dan Carlin interview on the podcast? I reached out to Dan to do a bumper for the show. His assistant politely declined, so it didn't work. But I would love to. I actually talked to Mike, I believe it's Mike, yeah, who runs Sword and Scale, which is a real life true crime podcast, and it's one of the biggest Patreons in the world, to sit for an interview, and he said he would be down for it, but I don't know if that'd be too far off script. I think that would be hella interesting and really cool to do, but I'm gonna try and keep it very much game focused for right now. Speaking of which, the conversations with Heavy Cardboard, I would like those to come back. Honestly, I'm scared for that to be a live stream or some kind of podcast content because it would take away from a different live stream, and I'm terrified to do that right now. So, nope. But that's been backburnered, but it's there. Philip, are we ever going to see Matt or Sweater Mike on the stream? Are they up for visiting? Matt, I've talked to once since he moved to Virginia, and they just bought a house, and I think, I don't know. And Sweater Mike, I haven't talked to since the first day of HeavyCon last year when he disappeared. I haven't seen him since or heard from him. I actually tried calling him 3 days ago. Nobody picked up. So probably not on that one. What is better for me economically, the annual patron or the Patreon? Marginally, very small, marginally. The annual patronage is better financially. Honestly, it's entirely what's best for you guys. I mean, every first of the month, everybody who has a Patreon, it always watches that number. Is it going to go down? It always goes down. Does it rebound? Usually it does. The annual patrons, once a year, you have to worry about that, whether or not they re-up or whatnot. So that's entirely up to what fits for you and what you choose to do. Financially, marginally better. We're talking a couple of percentage points. And by a couple, I mean like 2. And Foxwoods is just as close. Yes, Chisholm. I can go to any number. There are 3 casinos within an hour and a half of, or no, that are right at an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes away. And then in June, the Encore opens, which is like 20 minutes away, which is awesome. Looking forward to that. Eric says, read teaching notes, was not saying open them to all. Hell, Google Docs can be limited to edit, view by people with the link, just like the stream, but post the raw stuff there with edit privileges. I'd be totally open to this as a possibility. Eric, touch base with me, would you? Shoot me an email or a message on Slack. I would like to investigate that further, please. No, a Heavy Cardboard Cruise ain't happening. Don't worry. Philip says, I'm really happy to see Martin on the stream. Huge respect for that guy and was very surprised to see him on Heavy Cardboard. It's a bit surreal to me. Like, I didn't know Martin Fowler, who he was. He became a patron, and he had responded to something I said on Twitter a long time ago. And I went and looked, and I was like, oh, he has a verified account. Who is this? Because I'm not a computer programmer, a computer scientist, that realm of things, so I'm not familiar with who he was. And then he has a Wikipedia page. It's like, oh, and did some investigating. And so the funny thing is it's kind of amazing to me that he chose to be a patron. That it started out that way, right? And then since I moved here, we've become friends, and we go out and have dinner. Him and his partner and me and Jess we'll go and just have dinner, or we'll just we'll talk tea, or it's cool. He's just a guy with a great British accent to me, who happens to be Martin Fowler. So that's pretty cool. I'm sorry, Vince. I apologize. Didn't mean to drag this out. I know you held on as long as you could. I apologize. So hopefully you catch this later. Scott says, as a creator, stay true to yourself. No one will ever get those who appreciate your content. Respect it. Rob's crashing out because it's 5:40 on Friday morning down in Oz. Sorry about that, Rob. Thanks for hanging out. Chisholm says, take a break. Never underestimate the value of recharging the batteries. James says, yep, take a break now to prevent a mental break later. Go play some cards. James says, and I'm doing this because the chat's not on the screen because the software's jacked on their end. So sorry about that, guys. But James says, I became a patron because I enjoy the content, not because I want to dictate the show's direction. If I feel the show is no longer for me, I won't give it my money. I'm a supporter, not an employer. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. E says, I want you on that wall. Rainer, I think you're doing a great job. Also looking forward to whatever is in store for the future. Jordan, make the show you want. I trust what you're doing and enjoy it. Equally important, take a break. Everyone needs a break once in a while, and you shouldn't feel like patrons own you or be afraid of us. Grab some tea. I'm out down here. My backup tea. Tony says, take a weekend off, man. Being self-employed can have the effect of never feeling that you deserve leave from your job. You don't just deserve it. You need it. Fair point. I'm not wearing my ace bandage today, but man, is that thing swollen. I really wish I knew what I did to it. Hurts like hell. Chisholm, Mohegan Sun. Yep, also an hour and a half away. I think there's a Krispy Kreme at Mohegan Sun. That's awesome. All right, so let me get now to the future stuff that I have listed here, okay? Do you have any global schedule for 2019 other than going to fewer cons than in 2018? Kind of have a few notes here written down that basically it's streamline, focus, surround myself with good people. That's kind of a global schedule, if you will, is, and I've mentioned this before, is just focus on the show. And I keep saying monk mode, and don't Google that, by the way, not what it means, not what I mean it in this context. I've tried. It's tough to get comments that I've gotten on Twitter about monk mode being, oh, I thought the focus would be on heavier, longer game, this and that. And I'm like, I thought Maria was, I thought Tricarian was, I thought, you know, all these were, but then it's, yeah. So my goal is to focus on the content and producing consistent quality content. What I think is consistent quality content. My editing is shit on the podcast. I'll be the first to admit that. Working on it. More on that in a bit. Are you planning on streaming again on Caffeine? I thought I remember something about doing solo app streams like Through the Ages, but not sure if it's happened. Yes, Caffeine will happen. Some of the streams that were going to be on YouTube down the road may end up on Caffeine. Caffeine in the past has been kind of a let's throw stuff at the wall and see what works, see what sticks type thing, and I think I'm going to continue to use it as that. I'm just trying to establish a baseline of consistency right now in a sense that I get into a schedule, I get into a routine that is comfortable and set and flexible yet maintainable and manageable. Then I'm going to start doing stuff like bringing back Caffeine and all of that. And so that is coming. I don't have an exact time frame when, but yes. But again, anything that I do that is out of the ordinary is taking time from other stuff that I am doing. So keep that in mind, right? So, oh, what about this? What about that? What about this? Yes, I love a lot of these ideas. But again, anything I take time or I add time to, I take away from that core idea, which is kind of what got things a little sideways last year, which I don't want to revisit. I don't want to go back to that. So what's the status of HeavyCon this year? Assume it's in Boston. Safe assumption. And will it still be Memorial Day weekend? Yep. More to be announced on that as I'm able to. So the announcement's going to happen as soon as I have everything squared away. Do I have a time frame on that immediately? Right now I don't, but it will. It's going to happen. Memorial Day weekend, yes. Which is let me look at a calendar real quick. I believe that is May 23rd through 26th. I believe are the dates on that. Okay. A lot of people asked about HeavyCon. Also, Joshua asked, did the HeavyCon 2018 surveys ever get sent out? Nope, and that was a conscious decision. So much of what I know the feedback would have been was related to the hotel, and that is obviously a moot point because it's all changed. And with the venue changing and the city moving, HeavyCon coming to where I am, meaning in the Boston area, all that's going to be somewhat moot. So I chose not to send out a survey. So, is there any update on the Heavy Cardboard Age of Steam map reprints that were discussed a few months ago? Completely and totally backburnered, if at all. Maybe down the road. Absolutely not a priority right now. It can't be. Okay. All right, now Vince's questions, and these are long, but I think they're amazing. And before I get to those, let me catch up on chat. By the way, I noticed you lost a lot of weight since your earlier videos. Are you on a special diet or something? Good job. Appreciate it. I've lost about 55 pounds. I did Weight Watchers for a year, and I've now kept it off for 2 years or a full year. It's all blurring together, so I've kept it off. I was at almost 260. I'm down to around 205, 210. It fluctuates. So appreciate it. Thanks. And if you go back and listen to the older podcast, you'll hear the journey as that went along. Eric, it does have to be really strange to have your livelihood be entirely dependent on essentially a bunch of strangers, and I would add in giving you donations or patronage. Yep, it is. And it's strange, it's stressful, it's exciting, it's amazing, it's humbling. It's all of those things all at once, every day. Christopher says, I worry that you as one person can't be everything to everyone. So how do you build your brand and grow the show as just one person? Well, I can't afford to pay people what they should get paid, and I shouldn't ask for volunteers. Rocking a hard place. So I'm going to focus on the things and slowly catch up on everything that I can catch up on and start there. And possibly go with a new small council. If there's interest and if there are people that wish to do so, but I'm not going to ask for that. So it's depend on, like I said earlier, streamline, focus, and surround myself with good people. That's kind of the focus. How do you fill the gap without another co-host? You can't do everything and please everyone. And I think I need to stop trying, I think is the number one thing, Christopher. I think the key is to focus on publicly connecting with the individuals of the herd and the small council. I have to build a small council. Now, all of the volunteers, that's exactly what I'm going to hopefully do. Eric says, feels like many of the prior volunteers did a hell of a lot of work, and without those, it's probably hit Edward like a ton of bricks. People did help out here and there, and there are others that are currently helping out in certain aspects, yes. They did help some, yes, and some more than others. And I think in any organization, I think that's going to be a vital cog in this. So, so we'll see how that goes. I appreciate it, James. Let's revisit that a little bit later, okay? He says, Aegis theme maps could become a priority if you had someone in the wings that was a huge fan of Aegis theme willing to take the reins on the project. So, appreciate it. All right, let me get back to this stuff. All right, so these are, Vince brings up some amazing questions here in Slack. Question 1, in context. I think a lot of the questions here reinforce something that dawned on me a couple days ago. Heavy cardboard content is really opaque to the herd. For the most part, we don't at all know what you're going to do on any given day until the Sunday before. Newsflash. There are times I don't know either. And because those weekly announcements are made totally in a vacuum, there is no way to manage expectations or build hype. Hence, people that moan about heavy cardboard trending lighter have just been disappointed too many Sundays in a row, which is the one day a week that they get to look into the mostly opaque heavy cardboard content calendar. People watch the weekly look ahead wondering what will come this week. So here's my question. Does heavy cardboard have a content strategy? By that, I mean, does heavy cardboard have a high-level vision for what content will be offered, developed, and when? Every Wednesday night, we'll alternate between top 6 video, 18xx playthrough, conversation heavy cardboard, solo playthrough. Second quarter, heavy cardboard will start releasing pre-recorded, edited video content, starting with 5 to 10 minute quick videos of Edward's top 50 games of all time, etc. If you do have a content strategy, is there a reason you keep it close to the vest if you don't want some help? If you don't, do you want some help? Are you planning on things week to week? Well, I've kind of touched on some of this over the course of the last, 3 hours? And we originally talked about mission statements and vision statements in the small council. And I'll be honest, it didn't really go terribly far. Through no fault of Rob and those that and Matt and others that really kind of drove home the importance of those. This really was kind of coming around April and May of last year. Right, wrong, or otherwise, we know the past. We know what happened. And so that didn't necessarily happen the way it should have. So the content strategy, I would love nothing more than to be able to map out with great clarity the next 2 months and have a rolling 2-month line of content and having that that would give me such peace of mind. It would be glorious. But I am entirely dependent and must be flexible to other people's schedules. So I don't know how realistic that is. So it's very fluid. That also goes to definitive days. Okay, Mondays at noon are going to be lunchtime with heavy cardboard. What if something comes up with, whether it's Jess, whether it's whoever else might be on a lunchtime or any other type of stream? What happens in that case? So it requires flexibility. Would I love some help with that? Absolutely. Vince, if you're volunteering, I'm all ears. You want to help me learn all of how to do this better? There's a lot that I don't know that I don't know. Totally. I didn't go to school to run a business. I didn't go to school to be a broadcaster. I didn't go to school to be a podcaster, to YouTube, anything. Everything I'm doing is 100% learning on the job, including running heavy cardboard. So I am 100% open if folks want to help learn me what I don't know. Absolutely. So yes. So is there a content strategy? It's very tactical and very less so strategic in a sense that it's very short term outside of this driving the content for the upcoming months. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, because as folks have so driven home, and Christopher just said, I am a one-man show right now. So one-man show with help on tangent stuff. James helping with the graphics. The other fellas helping with the timestamps, this and that. But when it comes to the meat of the content, that's me. So yeah, I would totally be. And it doesn't just have to be Vince. I'm all ears, y'all. Question number 2. Does Heavy Cardboard have some measurable goals for the new year? You've mentioned quote-unquote consistent quality before, but that seems very subjective. It must be hard even for you to know when it's being accomplished. Fair point, yes. Kind of a I know it when I see it type of goal. I love to see other people's goals so I can root and cheer them on, but I tend not to advertise my own goals for fear of letting people down. Yep. Always. I mean, maintaining as well as growing the channel, those are kind of nebulous, I understand, but continue growing and fostering the sense of community, which kind of goes into something else later that Vince is going to bring up here regarding the guild. I think that's a great idea. And preventing my own burnout is also a goal for this year. Just focusing on the content, what I feel is quality content, and trying to offer a benefit to the hobby and everybody that chooses to consume the content that I create, and that we as a nebulous a royal y'all, if you will, a royal we, as in Heavy Cardboard. Question 3. This might be more of an introspective question. Where and how is Heavy Cardboard going to find the next 2,500 guild members, the next 10,000 YouTube subscribers, and 500 patrons? I think of this as a two-part question. Where is Heavy Cardboard looking to broaden its audience? And how does Heavy Cardboard measure its success? You know, that last question, how do I measure the success of Heavy Cardboard? The small council had asked me that for a year. And that's a really, really hard thing to answer, because I'm never satisfied. If you get satisfied, you get complacent. And when you get complacent, you don't try and improve. And I damn sure guarantee everybody out there that I am working on improving my craft. So I'm not satisfied, and I'm not happy. And I'm not happy meaning I haven't reached a level where I want to be. But what is that level? It's very nebulous. It's very hard to put a number on. And another thing I've learned, guild members, number of subscribers, number of patrons, do you know how much control I have over those things? 0. I'm not going to measure my success on any of that. That number back here, I do that for one reason. Folks enjoy seeing the number up there. That's it. That's the only reason. I don't measure my success. I don't count my worth by that number back there, or number of YouTube subscribers that we have, or Twitter followers, or anything like that. How do I judge my success? I can lay down at night and be like, you know what? That was good. I'm happy with where things are going. But I've been called a really big marshmallow and a really big teddy bear. And I go back to, I really felt like things were going pretty good. And I was really starting to, big picture, produce content that folks were really wanting. So I felt pretty good about it. I felt like the last month to 6 weeks was successful. I've heard from enough people that maybe not so much. So it's hard not to let that affect what I consider success, because even that would then be not controlled by, but influenced by other people. And I'm very much a type A. So I want things that I can control, as far as things I am in control of, to judge success by. I don't know that I have a 100% clear answer on that. And where is Heavy Cardboard looking to broaden its audience? Well, I mean, last year was kind of FaceTime, right? Going to a bunch of conventions, meeting a bunch of people, both in the industry and just gamers in general. and just enjoying being around and meeting people who like games. That was 2018. That's pretty clear. 2019 is more about focused on online networking and promoting heavy cardboard content online, meaning putting out, again, quality content, what I think is quality content. And what do I feel is quality content? If I can look myself in the mirror and be like, you know what? Yeah. Am I where I want to be? Would I love the PTZ cameras? Would I love to be able to have 4K cameras and be able to polish my presentation? Absolutely, on all of that stuff. But with where I'm at and not being satisfied and being pissed off at myself because the Dulosaur Island teach wasn't so great, wasn't my best, and being upset last night. I thought I did really good on the Pleasant Journey to Neko teach last night. But you know what? There were two places in that I took pregnant pauses. I wasn't happy about that. So at the end of the stream, you know what I focused on? I was like, yeah, it was a good teach overall. I think it went smooth. Got to get rid of those pregnant pauses. So stuff like that I think is, I think that is important to stay hungry. And I assure you, I am. But just focused on putting out the content and keeping that, and maintaining consistency, because I get what people are saying about being able to have okay, Mondays are this and Tuesdays are this or Thursdays are this. I don't know how practical it is. Maybe it is and I'm not seeing it. But at least being able to know, all of you out there know, okay, there's going to be a fortnightly podcast. There's going to be 2 to 3 live streams every week. Might not all appeal to me, but you know what? Yep, all this work is going to get done. This is all going to be content that we can consume if we choose to. One thing before I go on to his next point is I wanted to address some people were raising concerns that the podcast went to fortnightly as opposed to back to weekly. Here's why. Has nothing to do with what's on my plate. It has everything to do with being able to count on somebody else as a co-host. I don't think that it's reasonable to expect another co-host, guest host or otherwise, to maintain being able to play a game 4+ times, plus put in the 6 to 15, depending on how intricate the prep for the podcast will be. Put in that amount of prep time, record it every single week. People have lives. They don't have time for that unless they're doing it full time. I just don't think it's reasonable for someone else to expect. Me, yeah, sure. But not that and the YouTube channel. I don't think that's I'm lying. I don't think that's reasonable. I don't think that's possible to be able to do reviews at that level on a weekly basis. So that's why it's a fortnightly podcast now. And it's going to remain a fortnightly podcast for the foreseeable future. That's why. So Vince's thoughts on that broaden the audience and how to heavy cardboard measures a success says, I think the guild is one area where you could expand a bit if a concerted effort was made to consistently engage with them. Facebook seems like a great expansion area as well as given the large BGG groups there. Feel free to completely ignore this next parenthetical. I also have been thinking maybe it's time to dust off the heavy cardboard Reddit handle and renew your participation in that 1.2 million gamer strong community. Obviously with a different orientation to that platform and with your own boundaries. It's grown 3 times since the brouhaha. I'm still banned from the Reddit subreddit board game, just FYI. I'm not even sure what my own opinion on this parenthetical is. Probably not worth it. Who knows? I guess that's the point. I appreciate the suggestions. Take it under advisement. And I think I'm going to leave that there. Yeah. So, there we are. I've mentioned in the past that these are things that I'm focused on addressing. And I... Yeah. And as time allows, and as help becomes available, things that I'm looking for help with the website and the RSS feed, calendar on the site, help with uploading the podcast, maintaining pledgehc.com, formatting of the teaching notes, rules corrections, Klingon subtitles, and I'm taking people's advice as far as maybe trying to outsource the editing of the podcast. I've learned a lot, and there's a lot more to learn, but I don't know that I have the time to dedicate to learning it. So outsourcing that might not be a bad idea, and just general help in general. So, yeah, there you go. That's pretty much it. I'll finish these and wrap it up. Philip says, I used to work as a one-man show as a freelancer. I manage my own time, and it's very hard to keep in line and not burn out. You have to take care of yourself. I'd rather have less and quality content than no content. Heavy Cardboard's my favorite show because you have quality rather than quantity. I appreciate it, Philip, and I might not always nail it, but I guarantee you there is nobody that is outworking me trying to put out a quality product for you guys. I'm not saying it always succeeds, but I'm not going to be outworked, and that still maintains. That isn't going away. That hasn't gone away, and that's where we're at right now. And I'm just going to say G here. It says, I just want to say hi. It's my first time here. I am impressed with your amateur professionalism, and that's Latin for loving professionalism. I appreciate it. Thanks. It's also my passion, right? If I didn't have strong feelings or emotions or fill in the right word one way or the other, why the hell am I doing this? For a paycheck? It ain't worth it. I'm not making that much to where if it's not a passion, then I'm doing the wrong thing. And that's why I started it, and I am still passionate about it, but that's it's that passion is to why I take the feedback to heart on both sides. But Jess will tell you, and anybody that's close to me will tell you, right, wrong, or otherwise, I tend to take the negative feedback to heart a whole lot more than the positive. So you know what? I apologize to everybody that has said positive things, whether it's today or emails or Slack messages or Twitter or DMs or whatever. I hear it and I read it and I appreciate it, but it really doesn't have the effect that the negatives do on me. And I'm sorry for that. I apologize. So that's something I need to work on for me. So I'm going to work on that, because if you're going to take the time to write, say, do those things, then I owe you the same respect to take the time to appreciate them and not be like, oh, that's awesome, I appreciate it. I do, but maybe not to the depth that I should, to where they help offset more than they are currently. So that's a me issue. I just wanted to say thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. All right. Portos, why don't you record your teach with editing and play it during the live stream? Where would you like, what would you prefer me? So here's a question, Portos. If I did that, what would you rather me sacrifice? The time that it would take to edit that and do all of that. Have you considered an open-ended fundraiser specifically for the PTZ cameras, especially because it would open up content that you and others are looking for? I suppose Patreon is open-ended fundraising in a sense. When I go and update the Patreon rewards, obviously I also need to update the milestones. So maybe that's exactly what I do. Like that be the next milestone, and kind of that being, okay, look, this Patreon, get it to that point, and that is what, okay, as soon as I get it, boom, going to unlock one camera. Okay, next one, we're going to unlock a second camera. Something like that. Maybe that's a good idea. Do me a favor, Alex. Email me that, would you? Would you mind? I'd appreciate it. Robert says, haters have to hate, Edward. You're doing a great job once again. This month's been extremely solid. All the best. I don't think anyone's... Okay. There may be a couple. Fine. There are definitely some people that I have clearly pissed off that were patrons that are no longer patrons. I'm sorry if I've done something to piss you off personally, but if it's show-related, content-related, or on a personal nature between me and Amanda that I did that pissed you off, that's a you problem, not a me problem. I'm sorry for you, but I hope we can move past it. And I realize that this is patron only, but I'm sure the link gets out there. So that said, I don't think outside of just a very small handful of people, anybody's hating. I think everybody wants things to improve or to be how they envision it. There's nothing wrong. Nobody's hating. I'm not taking that. It's just I think people want to see what they want to see and they want to hear what they want to hear as far as content wise. And there's nothing wrong with that. And they're just passionate about it, just like I'm passionate about the show and everything else. So I don't see that as being a haters. I think they're striving. They want the show to be better or bigger or more focused on X, Y, and Z than it has been, or even some people would argue currently is. And I think that's okay. I think I need to do a better job of taking it under advisement and not steering the ship drastically one direction or the other, I think, unless the overwhelming majority of feedback is one-sided, right? Martin's told me that. Others have told me that. Kleiker's told me that. Jess has told me that. And it's hard to not overcorrect. But then when you do that, you start doing this. I mean, I did this, I think I did that, and now I'm trying to be somewhere in this. That's what I'm shooting for. It's never going to be perfect, though, but I damn sure I'm shooting for it. Chisholm says something else. Got to go. Happy New Year's. You're appreciated, Edward. Thanks. He says, remember the silent majority who do appreciate all you do. There's 50 of y'all in chat right now. Not to discount it. I greatly appreciate it. Please do not. There's 700 that aren't. And out of the comments and the feedback that I get, it's probably around that same number. And there are a whole bunch of others that don't. And it's hard to not forget about that silent majority. So I appreciate the reminder, Chisholm. Thank you. G says, the greatest challenge and skill of an entrepreneur is to delegate effectively. I suck. I might be literally the worst person on the planet at that. I'll own that. Ask the folks that were in the small council. 100%. I am terrible at that. If volunteers are out of the question, what about trainees? You can provide a lot of value as training. I think we're splitting hairs. It's semantics. It's just, I heard people yell at me that, hey, I'm doing this full time. I shouldn't need volunteers. I'm sensitive to stuff like that. So that's why I'm trying not to ask for them. But I don't know that the show moves forward without it. And I don't know how much I can afford to pay people. It's a fact. So. New board order. Way to hang in there, Edward. It's still going. Working on 3 hours plus. Yeah. E says, I worry about the longevity of that banana. That's actually a pretty new banana. Still green. So it's not the same banana. Come on now. James says, quality programming comes at a cost. PBS does it. It's okay to ask for money or help to create the show you want to create. I know, but again, that feedback I hear is, it's hard to unhear some of it. Brian says, I enjoy supporting you and your content. I have to jump out. Love you, brother. And be well all. Appreciate it, Brian. Take care. I think after 2017, with lots of great streams hitting all of the heavy midweight 18X war games, really good. Ending the year with the Advent Gaming for 24 days in a row. 2018, with all the cons you attended and all the personal stuff you had going on, and the number of streams went down, and being able to hit everything like you did in 2017. With a new focus and monk mode, I'm sure 2019 will be fantastic. That's my goal. I want to please folks, you know? I want to make, in a perfect world, I'd love to make everybody happy. I also am a realist. I know that's never going to happen. But it doesn't mean I don't want to please people and I don't want to make them happy. But I hear the 50 of y'all that are in here that I hope you guys enjoy what it is that I'm doing. And please take this the way it's meant. But obviously, I do care at some level whether or not you choose to be patrons, because my livelihood depends on it. But if you don't like the content, don't support the show. It's that simple. If you don't like me or whatever, don't support the show. But if you do enjoy it, and you do have faith that of things going forward, and you know that I'm excited about, and you're excited about this list, as well as others. I keep going back to this list, I realize, but it's all I have to hang my hat on right now, because I only have about 4 to 6 weeks of consistent content right now. So I'm trying. And I mentioned this on Slack. I don't really want to talk a whole lot more after this about this stuff. I just want to do it and let the chips fall where they may. Small course corrections going forward. But I've been really happy with the quality of the content. Okay, so let's look at this week, because God knows I heard about it for this week. Dulosaur Island, A Pleasant Journey to Neko, and this. Dulosaur Island as a lunchtime? Okay. Could have chose better. Fair point. No arguments. Could have done any of these. I could have done Atten or Arboretum or Trick of the Rails or any of those others, right? Fair point. Understood. But as a once in a while, something that light for a lunchtime, I think that's okay. Pleasant Journey to Neko? How many live streams? I'm sorry. How much video content is there on BGG or out there in general for the game? I'll hang up and listen. I'll answer the question. None. There's last night's live stream and then overviews from SN and stuff like that. Pretty obscure game. Heavier than it seems. And the only way you're going to get it is if you go through the publisher or maybe some random online store out there. Pretty happy with that one. And then today, I thought today was a really important thing to have a face-to-face, so to speak, with you guys. So I stand by this week's content. I stand by last week's Tricerian. You know what? I'm not going to justify it. Nope. I'm happy with the content the last 4 to 6 weeks. If you're not, I'm sorry, but I'm working really hard to make the best show that I know possible. And you heard what's coming. I hope you're on board with that. That said, thanks everybody. I really, really appreciate everybody's time that either sat here live or after the fact watched this, probably in chipmunk mode, so it didn't take you 3.5 hours. I really do appreciate it. And you know what? Even those that are critical of direction or content or anything else, as long as it's not personal and directed at me, as far as, you know, personal attacks, I genuinely appreciate and am grateful for every one of y'all, every single one of you. I don't care how much you choose to be a patron of. At $100, or I'm sorry, at $1 on up, doesn't matter. I appreciate it because you know why? You took the time to do something that you didn't have to do, and you're giving. You're being a patron of my art, of my content, and you're choosing to support this. And not a single one of you out there has to do this. So I don't care what level you support at. Thank you. Every single one of you. Thank you. I hope you choose to continue to do so. And I hope you find it worth your continued support. But if not, that's okay too. If we're going in different directions, okay, we'll shake hands, bid you adieu. No harm, no harm, no foul. And good, go, enjoy, and be happy. Yes. But I also hope you guys help me build both this as well as heavy cardboard. And because if I didn't want that, why the hell do I hit publish, right? There's some level of wanting the show to grow, of course. Why else would I be doing this as I do it? Mostly because I love it, but also, yeah, it's a job and it's my passion. It's the career I've chosen. It's something I love. So yeah, I want it to grow, of course. So help me. If you support and you believe in what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do, support it. And thanks, y'all. All right. That said, I think I'm done talking about the past now. I think if you want to ask me something on a one-on-one basis, absolutely, feel free. I have no problem telling the truth. But I think I'm done talking about the past, and it's January. We're looking forward. 2019, bring it. That said, thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day. I will be back Sunday at 2 p.m. with the weekly look ahead. All right? I mean this. I love y'all. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.